Site-SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network Link 160. I'm your host, Spencer Presley, and this week I'm no longer alone. I have a very special guest, Skull from the Phan Site here.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I was glad how quickly we were able to get this together, because I'm in a weird period in terms of my coverage I want to do, where I want nothing more than to just spoil Persona 5 Scramble for every human being under the sun, but I'm aware that majority of the people who listen to this show and are online in the West are not playing it for another 5 months. So shows like this are a good waiting period, because I can't just cover royal stuff forever until the game is really out, and also it gives me an excuse to not just spoil everyone on Scramble.
That's fair enough. I was gonna import it, but I looked at that yen price and I was like, I can wait a few months.
Are you telling me that you're not a fan of paying $90 for a video game?
In a specific language that I don't understand, absolutely.
You know what? I was talking to a friend of the show last night, John, otherwise known as Gnarly. He came over because he's back in town, and I was showing him Scramble, and he was like, I'm not really crazy about importing games if I don't totally understand all the native languages. I feel like, though, in terms of Atlus games, they already pretty natively have a lot of English just baked into the menus. That really, outside of story stuff, in terms of understanding what you're doing, importing something like Catherine or any of the dancing games, and even Scramble, as long as you're okay getting over the fact that most of the story is gonna just kind of fall over your head, all the gameplay stuff has a lot of English in the menus.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that Persona 5's aesthetic is rooted in English. So it might actually just be Japan more adopting English as a second language. It becomes a lot easier. But I got Royal for free. A friend gave me a Japanese copy to stream, and the entire time, all I'm just thinking is, oh man, this story is going to be great once I learn how to read.
How, actually, before I ask you that, in case someone here is listening to this and has no idea what the Phan Site is or who you are, Skull, what is the quick Twitter-sized introduction for yourself, who you are and what you do?
Well, I have it on my Twitter bio that I'm a shill, so I guess I just post a ton of dumb shit about Persona and how much I love the series, and just stupid memes that I find on Facebook. I always do that with credit, and then Twitter is just it's more my own personality and giving hot takes about the characters and about the latest goings on and whatnot. And I've actually been branching out more into Yakuza, Danganronpa, and Ace Attorney, because I feel like if you're a Persona fan, you probably like those games too, so it's good enough to talk about.
I'm kind of curious, because I know in terms of Twitter, you all do that yourself. For your Facebook page, you don't have anyone else who really posts, or is it just you as well?
It's been just me. I've had other people on and off, and it's either they didn't have the time for it, or just things didn't work out. But for the majority of the Phan Site's history, it's been me.
So I guess kind of going back into time, when really did the Phan Site get started? Because actually I don't even know this personally myself. I'm guessing obviously around 2016 or 17?
Earlier. Actually, much earlier, if you want to go completely all the way back. That I had just beaten Golden, and I was obsessed with the series, and my girlfriend at the time sat me down and said, listen, you need to talk about something else. I am tired of hearing about Persona. And said, find a fan club, meet someone that's into this game as much as you are. And at the time, I had followed a bunch of Persona Facebook pages, and one of them was called Chie-chan's Legs, which I thought was hilarious. And they were looking for an admin So I ended up having a conversation with the dude about Mother 3 of all things, and he gave me the job. And like while I started like really posting, he just sort of gave up and just said, "Here, here's the keys to the page." And it kept going and going until about 2017 when Atlus found my page and destroyed it because I stupidly put up I don't know if I can regret the action, but I put up the Daybreakers under like the Facebook videos because a lot of the people that follow my page told me like I don't have Crunchyroll. Like, do you not know any place that is going to be hosting it for free? I said, fuck it, I'll host it for free. And then Atlas Japan found out and destroyed the page. They were
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
they were gonna hold it off for a month, and it was like literally the day before the launch of Persona 5. So I said, you know what? I'm not gonna sit on my hands while everyone in the known universe is gonna be talking about Persona 5. So I just said, you know what? Screw it. I'm making a new page.
Interesting. Yeah, I was aware of the Chie like legs page for a while
Oh
because that
wow.
would get a lot of like I remember I remember actually seeing stuff like that get shared in our Facebook group for a while for that. Out of curiosity, what was your admin name always Skull or what was it originally?
It was initially Kanji's folding chair
Okay, yeah,
because the
then
names
I
were
do remember that because I was like I
yeah
don't remember anyone in the Chie thing with Skull, but yeah, that makes sense now.
yeah because we all the admin names were like party members' weapons, just to match with like Chia-chan's legs. I actually have a funny story that I recently got an ending to. Was that there was an elderly woman with the last name of Fitzgerald who thought that I was Aaron and asked me like, "Hey Aaron, is Chie going to be in Persona 5?" And I had no idea how to respond to that. But recently Aaron Fitzgerald followed me on Twitter and I asked her saying like, "Hey, do you know who that was?" And she said, "Yeah, that was probably my mom."
Oh,
So Aaron's
fantastic.
mom discovered the page thinking that that was Aaron.
What a weird turn of events. But yeah, Facebook has stuff like that happen a lot where you'll just get like random people's like family members just get suggested and then like it'll look to them like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to have Billy Joe or whatever on here and send him a message."
So fucking weird.
So that's interesting then. So how would you compare then your time when you were running the Chie's Legs page compared to the fan site now, or what was the sort of evolution for that like?
I'd say there's a lot less like interpage fighting because I used to get that a lot. Back when I started, like everybody in the P4 pages were super competitive with one another, and we'd end up like starting shit between mods and admins. Like one was like what the hell was their name? I think it was like Persona Music or something, but like they started a feud with me and they ended up actually like locking my page because they reported like they would pretend to be artists that I would feature and then report it saying it was stolen artwork. So then like I remember there was for a good month my range was completely shot where I had maybe like a couple hundred people or a couple dozen people. I remember like it was really stunted, but like for a month that's all I would do. And initially I was thinking like why bother posting, but it's fuck it. I was allowed to get more opinionated because I felt like less people would get upset. And it ended up actually being a fun month, but I do remember Persona Music being dicks about that. Oh, and the Naoto Shirogane page, we feuded for a little while, but me and the head admin are friends now.
So this is gonna come off as a very boomer question, but I've always
Shoot.
been on the side of I don't personally get the point of like Facebook pages. We've had our Facebook group since 2012, so like a little under 8 years now, and I've like kind of gotten them as like okay, listen, I love Criminal Girls. Criminal Girls is a PlayStation Vita RPG. It is a very niche thing. If I wanted to make a Criminal Girls page to like, hey, I want to post about random fan art and like give my opinions without really committing to like making a product of it, I can get why you'd want to make a page for that. But it was just one of those weird things in my head of wow, there are so many pages for like all these multiple series that like even as a fan of Persona and SMT, I've never like looked at any of them and have been like, wow, I gotta follow this just because it's like, okay, it's cool that they share art and stuff, and I get that, but it's like I can kind of stumble across it more organically. Like I will just it's kind of weird. I think it was more weird for me on Facebook than Twitter, because Twitter is one of those things where following like a fan page, and I get it a little more, whereas if they just retweet it, you're just kind of getting it directly from the source like that. Whereas it like going to a specific page for stuff like that, it was just kind of seemed odd to me. Whereas I was more in the thing of, oh, if I'm gonna make like a community for something, I'd want it to be a lot more discussion orientated, where it's like it's cool to like share art, and like I love when people put art in our group or like share it to us online. It was just one of those odd things of like when there are, and I'm probably super lowballing this, when there are 20 Persona fan pages on Facebook, what inspires someone to make 21, you know?
Yeah. It was, I'm honestly just now, like, my brain is now going through the whole thought process of everything. I don't know if I would ever make one on my own. And it was specifically just because I thought, oh, well, I could at least talk to people that like the same thing that I like, because like most of my friends in real life, they either don't play games or they don't play like JRPGs. They'd be more like Madden or Call of Duty or like whatever annual franchise. They're more into that stuff. So it became more of just an outlet to just fan out about a JRPG that I really, really like. Because like whenever I play games, I always get into it a little after, where I reflect on it and go, yeah, those characters were cool, or yeah, I really like the story. But it was like 6 months after beating Golden, and it was still in my brain. So I'm just like, all right, I guess I'm a super fan now.
So for you personally, because I know you also have a Discord, how would you say you divvy up your time and attention between like Twitter, Facebook, and Discord?
Oh, I'm so fortunate because I work as a receptionist for an ad agency, and most of the time is either like I take some time to field emails, calls, and guests, and then the rest of my time is fan site. Because like before then, I was incredibly bored at work, but now like I'm able to manage these things. I'm very fortunate to have an admin team for the Discord server, where honestly they do a majority of the legwork. Where I'll pop in, like ask what's going on, if there's anything that needs attention, or if anybody has any ideas for contests or something to keep engagement up, and then mine goes into Twitter. I usually have like a lot of DMs, so when I'm not tweeting, I'm usually just talking with people one on one, and that's become a lot more fun because it's allowed me to sort of apply what I've learned from Persona, because it really gave me a stronger sense of empathy, because the characters are all they're very three dimensional, and they have a lot of shit going on. So then like I apply that empathetic ear to people that need it. And then for Facebook, I'll pick one day out of the week where I just set up 50 drafts, and then I schedule maybe like 6 for the day, and then tomorrow then I'll schedule another 6 until I'm out of 50. And that's honestly really it.
Okay, interesting. So you were mentioning that back when you joined the Chie page, you were playing Persona 4. Was Persona 4 your entry into the series then?
Yes, Golden was my entry into the series. What had happened was that I was big into the community of and this is going to be funny, the PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. I was really big into that. I played all the betas. I knew a lot of the devs by name, and once I had double platinum the game, that I was thinking, okay, I need something else for my Vita for like when I'm at my job, because I had a part-time job then, and I remember just seeing online, like it was like all the outlets were talking about Persona 4 Golden, like it's going to be the biggest title on the Vita. It was like 9.5 out of 10 across the board. So I was like, all right, I've got $40 in my pocket. Let's try out Golden. Like initially, I remember because me and my brother, we were cynical jackasses at the time, and I was planning on just playing the game and making fun of it, because like with all these anime characters and their stereotypes. But then like I really started getting into it, and I was like, shit, this just took me for a ride.
So you had a Vita. Let's see. Did you buy one in 2012 or did you
Yeah,
start with 2013?
I bought a launch title Vita
Oh
because
God, what was your first game?
Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Interesting
I
choice.
because
Yeah,
I love that game and it was a launch title, so I was like, all right, I already know what I'm getting into.
interesting that you'd go that one over. I guess the two big ones I always heard people talk about playing. It was either Uncharted or Luminous. Those were like the two like big ones that I heard like a lot of my friends picked it up. I had a
See,
Vita. What did I pick it up? I picked it up October with there was a crystal white Assassin's Creed 3 bundle, which I still actually use to this day. And it was funny. I had pre-ordered my first Vita game I ever bought, like physically at least. I had pre-ordered the big old collector's edition, the solid gold premium edition for
ooh,
P4G,
nice.
and it was one of those funny things of like, okay, that one came with a hard case and a outer case as well. So I'm like, all right, this is my accessories all squared away, but I have the system a month beforehand. So anytime I was playing it before I had those Persona 4 Golden accessories, I was babying that thing everywhere. I just kept it like in the box on me because I was like, no, there's nothing really safe for this because like it's not a clamshell design. It's got a giant touchscreen on the front. It's got a big screen on the back. So I just felt like I was like holding the world's most like crystal baby of all time for like the month of playing that game. But I don't know, there was like never, I've still never had that moment, even like after the Switch came out, of when I had the Vita for the first time and I'd be playing it in college. I felt so cool. I felt like so like advanced in terms of playing that, and then just
Yeah.
that feeling that never really transitioned with the Switch. Where like the Switch, the coolest feature I ever had with it was putting it in tabletop mode and playing it with my arms down with the Joy Cons. I'm like, this is cool, but it just kind of just felt like I'm just kind of playing a handheld, and I brought the TV along with me. Just like something about that smaller form factor on the Vita, like I never lost the appeal of. Even now, like I still play my Vita way, way, way more than the Switch. Like I just finally 100% at everything I need to do in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and I'm like, yep, I have no idea when I'm gonna touch my Switch again. Probably whenever the next Smash Brothers thing happens. But besides that, my Switch is just gonna remain docked. And yeah, God, even before Tokyo Mirage Sessions, I didn't play it besides Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 in July for a little bit, and like I think all of 2019 that was like the only game I really bought and played on Switch. So it was just like it was just kind of a dust collector, which is very odd because most people after the Switch came out were like, all right, this is the number one system of all time. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, I mean I do feel that way about the Switch. I'm just looking at my stack of games and then my stack of backlog games for the Switch, and I'm like, as much as I do want to agree with you, there is definitely something about the about I guess the form factor of the Vita, because now just going back into the past about this, I actually have a fun story about Golden. Was that it had traveled with me when I gotten a job offer for a bank. So I was wearing a suit at the bank, and the Vita fit perfectly into my suit pocket, and I played the game all the time. Like even there was a basement area that had just like a really crappy old computer, and it was supposed to give me like teller training. And the entire time I would have my suit jacket partially open, and then right at my hip was the Vita, and I was playing it while pretending to listen to the training. And then when I ended up having to do like greeting because it was a large bank, so there had to be a greeter at the front, and the entire time in my brain, like while I'm just greeting people, is like, okay, I got this dungeon part. Now when I'm done with that dungeon, I need to max up kanji and I need to give Naoki attention. I need to make sure to fish. And that's all I was thinking about the entire time, and it stuck with me super hard.
Hmm, interesting.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of going forward a little bit now, because obviously you mentioned you and even on your Twitter bio are a self-proclaimed like Sega shill or like other shills. You've kind of evolved, for lack of a better word, in your shilliness of very Persona heavy, Atlus heavy, Sega heavy. Now even you're telling me like you're branching out with like Danganronpa and like um, other series and stuff like that. Kind of taking a step back to like when it was more, even though it's not that long ago, of like Atlus and Sega stuff.
Oh, when
Did you
Sega bought Atlus, it was the greatest day of my life.
There's a lot of things I want to say about that. Not in a negative way. There's actually I had a interesting talk with somebody about Sega and Atlus being bought, but no, kind of putting the spotlight more on you though. Do you ever have those weird moments? Because I know in the community, especially with Persona specifically, of Persona 1 and 2 having such a hard time in terms of not only never really getting represented officially, but never really getting a lot of discussion. And then with a lot of these like more popular communities and stuff like yours, where, okay, these are started by people, and I know sometimes there are like less welcoming fans out there who will be like, oh, hey, you haven't played Persona 1 or 2, your opinion is less valid. Like, how have you kind of felt like coming on that side of things?
Honestly, a lot of my and this is really gonna sound conceited, but like I guess evolution as a content creator is that it's more just listening to people. Because initially when I started Persona, it was just whatever I played was what mattered. And then like listening to other people's opinions got me like more to thinking about how you could branch out further. Because like when I had started Persona 5, I was initially just straight up Makoto best girl. There is no other girl. And then when you make friends with people who are their stories and they make these points of just like, oh yeah, that can work. Oh yeah, like that totally works now. And then I just try and integrate that into the way that I run things. And a lot of and with Persona 1 and 2, it's been a bit of a tightrope walk because when initially it was like, why aren't you giving P2 enough attention? It's like, well, I haven't played P2. I don't think I would give it justice. And it was more just you need to play P2, and now you need to give this more attention. And if you don't give it the right attention, well, fuck you.
Well, because there's that weird line of I am a fan of Persona, and a lot of like it also kind of goes back to that thing of, hey, can you be a fan of a series without having played it? There's that weird thing of a lot of people will say I am a Persona fan and they've only maybe played 1 or 2 or even 3 of the games and stuff like that without having really played all of them. It's that tough notion of, I think, if people went out there, like when you started fan page, if you were like, I am a Persona 5 fan, Persona 5, Persona 5, Persona 5, but you don't really want to pigeonhole yourself like that because you're not ever really like dissuading all the other like games in the series and stuff like that, and you don't want to like sell yourself as like, oh, hey, I'm just going to be one thing forever and ever and ever. Like,
of course.
To compare it to this podcast, our first 10 episodes of this podcast, and almost for the first calendar year, we were just called the Persona Podcast. We started in 2012. It was like in the height of like all this new Persona stuff, Arena and Golden and all these other things were happening with the anime, and I was like, okay, cool, we'll just focus on Persona. I was aware of Shin Megami Tensei at the time, but after a year of doing the show, I was like, wow, I've really pigeonholed myself from not really talking about other stuff without it kind of being like an offshoot. So I'm like, okay, well then starting at episode 11, we just changed the name to Shin Megami Tensei Network, and that just because it encompassed everything made it a whole lot more open, but it also welcomes in a lot more of those people who, let's say, I don't like Persona. I only like Digital Devil Saga. I don't care about Shin Megami Tensei 4 or Apocalypse. I only care about Nocturne and stuff like that. So it invites all those different facets in, and it's kind of more up to how you want to handle it as well as how your community wants to handle it with you. And I know that's a balancing act that's not always easy to strike.
Oh, you are telling me. Part of it that really does make it worth it though is like I think it really did start this year because on Twitter I put out a calendar at the last day of every month because I have like specifically assigned appreciation days where one's like for Futaba and one's for Akihiko and another one is for Yosuke and a lot of people, they get legitimately excited if their favorite character falls on their birthday or if their favorite character gets a special day. And honestly, that does make it more worth it when there's that day before stressing out of, okay, who fits here and what fits there, and it becomes almost like a puzzle. But the fact that it does make people feel happier is the reason why it's worth me tearing my hair out for.
So this actually goes back to something I had sort of poked funny for a week or so back when I think, was it just SMT
Yeah,
Sunday or something or
I just
whatever?
wanted to do a day where I spread more into SMT. Like my SMT knowledge is not even close to anyone's. It's minimal at best, but I wanted to integrate that in a little further, so at least it's more like, hey, Persona fans, you can like SMT too, because it's not that far off from each other.
Well, the funny thing is, the reason I had included that little mention at it is I have just never really understood the theming of the days thing. Like, I get it in terms of, oh, it's fun of like, oh, hey, this Thursday we're gonna be doing like something, some form of alliteration that works with Thursday and different things like that. But for me, I don't know. I've always wondered how that, like, how does that not feel like you're sort of limiting what the conversation is? Like, a good example is, I think when all of the Persona 5 Royal previews dropped, it was like a Mirage Monday or something for you guys. So then
Yeah.
almost all the attention then went to Royal, which is fine because that's all the big news. But then in that sense, isn't it kind of defeating the purpose of having the theme day when we're talking about a completely different game? When you try and limit
I
it.
mean, yeah, that's going to happen. And that's kind of why I just put another one for this month because I know there's no embargo dropping. There's not going to be any preview. So
You say that now.
more.
There's plenty of time. We can make a Monday embargo any time you want.
To be fair, I was part of that because I was invited to a Royal Preview event and they said, oh, we're going to put the embargo on. I think it was like the 21st or something.
Nope, it
Uh,
was 20 because I remember when they had shown the details from the preview event on the chalkboard, it was the same day as Scramble, and in my head when I saw that initial embargo drop date, I'm like, why would you do? You're literally going to be dropping a bunch of previews on the same day your company across the globe is dropping an entirely new game. Like
I
how would
mean, that
you
makes sense. I
how would
get
you
that.
not think that's going to just swamp all the attention? So I'm glad that changed, but yeah, that was when I saw that was originally the thing. It was
I
very
initially I
boneheaded.
initially understood. I kind of got the rationale where it's more let's draw attention away from the game that we can't actually talk about yet, and let's talk about the game we can talk about.
I have the best story about Scramble at the moment. One of the PR people who is tied to Royal and also Scramble, funnily enough, on their Twitter bio, they had it listed as, "Hey, I work for PR with Persona 5 Royal and Persona 5 Scramble." And I had that moment of like, "Oh yeah, that game isn't actually technically announced yet." Even though it was
Yeah.
announced last year in Japan. So I hit her up and I was like, "Hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. It says Scramble. I mean, we all know you guys are working on Scramble, but you might want to like take it out of your header." And I loved because I got a very PR answer back that was like, "Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. It had changed before." I had screenshotted it because it was like, well, I clearly got to just screenshot this just for prosperity's sake. But it was very great to get that PR answer back of, "We're not talking about this game. We're only talking about Royal." And I'm like, "All right, okay. I'll see you in July." That
I've
game.
gotten more on a first name basis with them, so if I said that, they would have just been like, "Oh shit."
Oh, this was a newer person with with that third party PR company they're now using. So that is kind of why I wanted to put that out. I feel like normally I would have just kind of thrown that into the ether, but also at the same point it's so weird because out of everyone I've talked to when it comes to Scramble, there's literally two camps. There are people out there who are like, well, no, duh, it's coming. But there are people out there because there's been nothing officially announced who are like, hey, is this game coming? Which is like, it's a
I mean, yeah,
you're
it
in such
is.
a you're in such a weird middle ground of like, oh, I hope it comes soon, like, because I was talking to someone a couple of days ago and I was mentioning how I'd been playing it. It's like, oh, I hope I have it by like 2021. I'm like, dude, if you think Atlus was not like translating Royal at the same time they were translating Scramble, you have got to be absolutely high. It would be like, hey,
It's going to be a really quick gap. That's why I'm really hoping for that summer
I
release.
have told everybody I'm not even saying, oh, it's probably, it's a maybe. I'm willing this into existence. P5S is coming out in July. The game starts in July. It is a summer-based game. The marketing synergy is so strong that there is physically nothing outside of, let's say, like a deadly virus making production delays happen. Outside of any godforsaken events like that, that game is coming out in July.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing I've learned just from doing this for so damn long is that Atlas is very much a creature of habit. So, like, I can already say, yeah, it's definitely coming in the summer because They're definitely going to have the concert in 2021 where they're definitely announcing 2 new games because that's how they roll.
Well, it's actually really funny how you mentioned they are a creature of habit, and there have been even little other signs like that. Like how, oh my god, when Scramble came out in Japan, in Korea, and other parts of Asia, Royal finally came out. And we're
Yeah.
getting Royal next month. They've actually done that a lot, where a month or so before the American release, the rest of Asia gets their version of it. And so if you look, Scramble got announced as coming out in June.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. It's
all
absolutely
all of
perfect.
the all of the signs are pointing to it. And also, let's be real, like if you don't release it in June, sorry, if you don't release Scramble like during the summer, August is pretty much your last chance of anyone giving that game any attention, because I think once we get into September, it's going to be like next gen or nothing. Like no one's going to care about any other game this year, and it's all going to
It's
be about
either
next
going to
gen.
my main hope, and I'm really hoping against hope with this, with no factual evidence to back me up, is that SMT5 is going to get released fall or winter in Japan specifically. That coming now that they have nothing else on their plate except for maybe 13 Sentinels, that we can get that SMT5 news finally, because just dealing with ornery hardcore SMT fans, I realize they need a win. Then they need to win bad.
So
So Atlas,
it's
please
interesting.
give us
It's interesting you'd say
SMT5.
that. I would say 100% no release this year. I don't even want to like kind of throw that out there. It's this is the year though for more info, and I think it would be a really easy win for Nintendo specifically, because this is looking to be a pretty quiet year for them. Like I think SMT5 could be a really interesting year to show off in a direct, or like I guess actually not their direct, but their like E3 presentations. That would be a good one to be like,
Oh my
hey,
god.
here's like a quick trailer. We've been silent since like the reveal of the Switch. We have an update, because most people like, since like in the layman sense of things, outside of the 2 teaser trailers they've shown, there's been nothing in game. There have been very few like actual updates and people talking about it. But most people don't know that the reason behind that is like, it's not like the game's in development hell. The game is just in a long wind of development with a studio who has never used Unreal Engine 4. And there have been so many production issues with Unreal Engine 4 in Japan. But like, what are you gonna do? Are you going to like tell your fans, hey guys, we're really incompetent. We don't know how this fucking works. We just keep making Fortnite mods. I keep trying to make a Mara model, but it keeps doing the fucking like the fucking floss dance. It's really uncomfortable. So like they're not gonna talk about that obviously, but that's one of the big things of, hey, they're only making it in one engine. While Unreal Engine does have some really impressive games on Switch, Unreal Engine on Switch is like really hard to make run not terribly. Like in terms of games that I know offhand that use UE4 and don't run like complete ass, it's like Dragon Ball Fighters and Dragon Quest XI, and Dragon Quest XI basically had to be remade for the Switch.
I think that if Iwata didn't ask for Dragon Quest on the Switch before he died, it would not have happened.
That's a that's a weird one, because yeah, he did definitely ask for that, and there was a weird lineage. But if people remember though, Dragon Quest XI's development, before that game even came out in Japan on 3DS and PS4, that was already announced for the Switch in like kind of a oops, all berries Captain Crunch way. It actually kind of recently happened with Final Fantasy XIV. There was I think it was at one of their either concerts or events, one of the producers, I think it was Yoshi P, was commenting on 14 on PS5, and he was like, oh yeah, of course it's going to be on PS5. Like at the time when they couldn't say games were coming to PS5, because it's just one of those things of, no duh, we have a live service game.
Yeah.
Why would this not come to the next generation if we could make it happen?
There are a couple of no-brainers for PS5, but I mean, you can't officially say anything.
So this, you bring up a very interesting point that is very off topic, but is actually Atlus related. In our Discord chat I've been having recently with a couple other people, LaRue and Mac in particular, of Jack's Bag Full of Maca, he and I were talking about 13 Sentinels. So before I give you my pitch on this, let's play armchair publisher in this sense, because it is already out in Japan.
You know what? That seems to be half the shit that I do on Twitter is armchair publisher.
Yes, but
So,
this is for a game
let's
that
go.
literally I wish one person would tweet about, because 13 Sentinels after its JP release definitely has flown under the fucking radar. So you are Atlus's publishing arm. Whatever you say goes. When are you releasing 13 Sentinels, if at all, and how do you do it for the West?
Well, just considering the basis of Sega marketing campaigns, like Sega and Atlus English marketing campaigns, is that it's got to be in the fall. It needs to either have a steelbook or reversible cover,
What about stickers?
and
Can I interest you in a launch day sticker package?
definitely there is a sticker package. That's what it then, and I've just noticed that because it's the same team for like the last year or 2 years, that it's either steelbook, reversible cover and stickers, or steelbook and stickers.
You know, you say
And
you say steelbooks, but as a actual steelbook whore, because I am one, and I can call myself that because I have a problem. Atlus actually almost dropped steelbooks for a while. They like did a few for like KOF in the original P5 release, and then they were just
yeah,
doing metal cases that I genuinely think are hot trash. Like, do you have Dragon's Crown Pro, that metal case that came with it?
yes, I do. I actually
That
just
case
bought it
looks like it has
recently.
tumors on it. That is too embossed for me. It
Yeah,
is
they do some weird like
uncomfortable.
3D embossing thing, and I hate that because it always sticks out. Like back when I used to collect DVDs and I collected the Simpsons like box sets, they always
Oh
did
yeah, like the
plastic
where they were the
embossing.
shape of the heads.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it looks so awful on a like being displayed anywhere.
Yeah,
You
like
have to
the
display
plastic
frontwards or
sleeve
nothing.
for Dragon's Crown Pro looks like a like what I imagine a transparent girdle would look like. Like it's about to pop at any moment. And fun fact for any collectors out there who hate that case, Atlus actually just did a reprint of Dragon's Crown Pro on a standard copy, like a standard
Ooh,
just Blu-ray
nice,
case.
nice.
Yeah, I hate metal cases for a lot of reasons, just because I think they look really lame and generic. And my big gripe for the longest time, the perfect example was the Catherine Full Body case we got. That's a really
Yeah.
gorgeous set of artwork, but if you bought that collector's edition, you just have a bright pink spine. I don't know what that
Yep,
game
I'm
is. There's
looking
no.
at it right now. It's a
Whereas
bright
like
pink spine, and then like the just that metal line that's
yeah,
supposed to
and
just
like
keep
when
it
you compare
together.
it to a steelbook where you just have like even if the name isn't because I know a lot of Switch steelbooks don't have the name on the spine, like just having that clean rectangular strip I think just looks a lot better like compared to like lining everything up on a shelf than just the you got a big crack in the middle for the
Yeah.
spine.
I mean, just looking at like, for example, the launch one of Persona 5 or the launch one of Yakuza Kiwami 2, at least I can tell what it is.
Yes, and
It's just
actually,
a
I
pink
did have a
thing
funny
next to
moment
Blaze Blue.
when Full Body came out. Sarah on Twitter, one of the European PR people,
I know, I love Sarah. She's the
she
best.
she was she was like and this shows the kind of fucking comic book guy nerd I am of the actually but I just couldn't with Catherine if she was like guys check out this beautiful steel book we've got and I was like that's actually a metal case but I mean it looks great it's just not a steel book she's like well listen I'm sitting right next to the guy who ordered these from the steelbook manufacturer these are 100% steelbook and I'm like you open up the case and it says steelbook inside the case. If it says one, they have a trademarked brand. But okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah, maybe like steelbook in that case is just more of the industrial term than
It's
an
the word
actual
band-aid. It's the
steelbook.
word band-aid. No one says band-aids are adhesive strips. If you're putting on an adhesive strip, you're calling it a band-aid. So like I understand this like especially well because in the collector world like there are people who get into it who are like oh hey my metal case of Soul Calibur 6 is just as beautiful as my case of Sekiro, even though they're two totally different cases. Because hey, if a case makes this noise, that's a steelbook. It's like I
Yeah,
get
pretty
it.
much.
It makes more sense because I have to think about it as a rational human being who does not want to be a big fucking nerd. The average human being who collects video games and appreciates them, at least physically, most of them don't want to know the difference between a steelbook, a metal case, a future pack, and a steel metal bookcase pack, whatever, insert word here. And most of those were real company names.
They're just the most ridiculous names.
But thankfully, Atlus and Sega have actually gone back to steelbooks because I was begging for years. My greatest worry was Royal was going to get a metal case, especially compared to the steelbook that got released last year, because it's like it's less of a big deal that like we didn't get steelbooks for a while because none of them were really continuations. But imagine if your Persona 5 steelbook then got a Persona 5 Royal metal case, and then the spines just look like they're two totally different kind of games.
It would be exactly like Catherine Full Body, where it just is a red spine right next to Persona 5.
Yeah, I cannot recommend people enough, by the way, if you are not adverse to importing, Japan, for every Atlus game, and even Sega game for recent history, outside of, oddly enough, Yakuza 7, they have these, like, pre-order bonus steelbooks that they do for a certain retailer called GEO. They are absolutely gorgeous. The only one that's, like, ungodly expensive is the original release of Persona 5, because that was, I think, like, 1,000 copies were made, and it was, like, really, 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 like, not publicized. It was very like hidden. I found out about it like a year after the American release. So if you enjoy steelbooks and stuff like that, like I even the one for Catherine I think is a lot better because it's just the main cover, all clean. There's no like logos or anything. You still have your spine, and on the inside is really cool. It's all of the sheep art for like when you're on the tutorial screen or like for the drinks and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, the inside art is really really fun. And actually we just saw recently the inside art for the North American Steelbook for Royal. I like that art, but I will say the one for the Japanese Steelbook in Royal I really like. It's that wide shot of Tokyo where it shows the calendar, you know? So that kind of like curvature of Tokyo, like skyline. That, when you open up the case, is what's on the Royal one.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It's just the one that I saw was a like a really small ass JPEG, so I didn't get too much detail on it.
Yeah.
But it's like I'll see it. It doesn't matter.
But yeah, so going back, because I cannot believe I went on a 19-hour... I can't believe it, actually. I talk about steelbooks too much. But going back, though, to Armchair Publisher, so you're playing, release it in the fall. Any more specifics? So PS4, do you have a month in mind?
Yeah, it'll be PS4, and definitely I want to go with like the Fist of the North Star Sakura Wars, where it's like different key art for the front cover, and then the Japanese key art for reversible cover, and then sticker set.
Okay.
And obviously, like a shit ton of trailers, kind of like the Soccer Wars campaign. I kind of like how they're doing that, where it's just we don't acknowledge it until 2 months before release, and it's a blitz on just everything social media.
I want to like that kind of marketing. We can talk about that in a second, because I'd be curious to see what you think of my release plan for 13 Sentinels, because I've heard no one talk about this, and I actually think this would be the best case of Vanillaware actually making money on this game. So this is what you do if you're Atlus. You wait till the PlayStation 5 reveal event, when all the games for launch get announced. 13 Sentinels is a PlayStation 5 game at launch. You still release on the same day digitally the PlayStation 4 version, because that's already baked in, and the graphical differences won't really be that better. It's just probably, okay, hey, maybe the game runs a little bit better, or the art assets look like crazy 8K, stuff like that. Because I know they have those like capabilities. And the reason why this works is launch lineups are usually super scarce and almost never have big hooks for like the nerdy weeb audience, for lack of a better word. Because like, think about the PlayStation 4 launch. The most Japanese kind of game you had there was like there's nothing really, because people also, if you remember, PlayStation 4 released 4 months after it did in the rest of the world. Japan got it in February. Like, probably the most Japanese game we had at launch was Knack, which is not saying a lot. So imagine if Atlus could time that release with the PlayStation 5, have all of these millions of new customers who maybe are interested in the idea of a visual novel tower defense game, but wouldn't necessarily sell. Because I think no matter what month you sell it on, if it's a PS4 game right now, that game's going to flop. There's no way you can market 13 Sentinels right now, even as a just PlayStation 4 game, and it doesn't make any form of a splash. I just think that market is super flooded. There are so many PlayStation 4 games, especially if you wait until the fall. Like, no one's going to care about a PS4 only game like that. So if by some miracle that could happen, I think PlayStation 5 launch, 13 Sentinels, and then PS4 version digitally, that would at least guarantee them, I'm willing to bet, at least like 100 to 500,000 copies. Because like, think of like, there will be no big Japanese game this fall, at least for PS5. Because we've heard absolutely nothing, and all of the big publishers have said, hey, if we are doing something, it's also going to be PS4. But I feel like we would have known about it by now for even like a mid-size one. Like, because right now I can think of like 5 PlayStation 5 games at launch that are at least confirmed, and they're all ports of PS4 games.
Yeah, like I figured that a lot of games for the like there are going to be a small handful for PS5, but everybody's going to be going the Watch Dogs treatment where it's for PS4 and PS5, but they're going to market the PS4 one more or PS5 one more.
Yeah, plus it'll also adverse its way to collectors of like, hey, if you don't want to make a PS4 version physically, having the PS5 version physically would then entice all of those collectors who might have just gotten the PS4 version, but then that's enticing them to get a PS5 to play that physical version. Which is, in a way, you could say kind of a scummy business move, but also at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time, it's also like, hey, we're not really a charity. Like we like, it's kind of like that thing of like, hey, if you want a physical PS4 version, you could always import it from Japan. I don't know. I feel like it'd be hard. You have a hard pressed time to be more scummy than when Atlus said they weren't going to do Persona 3 5 dancing. That one will always rub me the wrong way.
Wait, they said that they weren't going to?
Yeah, if you remember, when that game got announced at E3 2018, Persona 3 and 5 Dancing on Vita was announced as digital only. And that was the same E3 that Sony had let publishers know, hey guys, physical publishing is ending on the Vita. The final date for Western publishers in Europe and North America was February of 2019. And so there's a whole bunch of
Oh, right,
cutoffs
right.
and stuff like that, and that those were within like a week of each other. And I remember as soon as like that got announced,
I
uh,
do remember that because the limited run did an E3 event where they were going to be showing off their final Vita games, and I was just saying, "Come on, Persona Dancing, come on!" Yeah, I had to have a contract with Sega, but
oh
no,
no,
nothing.
yeah. Unfortunately, people don't know this. Sega and Atlus will give up their licensings for merchandise to literally anybody. Hence, if you look at all the official Persona 5 merch on like 19 different store websites, for
Oh,
whatever reason, Sega and Atlus as a company are just so adverse to other companies publishing games they publish digitally. Like, they'll give up the rights to Shenmue, or they'll give up the rights to Panzer Dragoon, and recently with Space Channel 5. Like, if another company wants to develop and publish these games like Streets of Rage 4, they'll do that. But if it's a game they release digitally and they said they don't want to do it physically, unless you're Sonic Mania levels of big, they never go back on that. They will never let other companies swoop in and do it for them, even though it is the easiest way to get more money. But going back to the P35 thing, when that got announced, I remember basically tagging everybody I knew who worked at Atlus and Sega saying, please let this happen. Because if you remember, when they announced Persona 3 and 5 Dancing, do you remember that its release date was actually for 2019, not 2018?
yeah, I do remember
It
that.
was supposed to be January, February of 2019, and they bumped it up 2 months because, spoiler alert, by the time that game got announced, most of the localization was done. I know all the voice acting was done by the time it had an English announcement. So the game was done by like September, October for Atlus USA, and they had said, oh, well, we don't have time for the cutoff date. Sorry, guys. And that one really sucked because I know that that was not true. That you were able to submit Vita game code up until I think mid to late January of 2019 to get physical copies made. Like if you look, there were other games that came out physically after that release, such as Deathmark by Axis. NIS did a final 3 runs with SMT like on the Vita, The Lost Child. So there were tons of other cases for it, and so it really sucked of like them all being like, oh, darn it, we couldn't make it happen. And then if you actually know what's kind of going on in the industry, you're like, bullshit! You're calling
Yeah,
bullshit! But it's like, you're literally preaching to the choir of like, yes, in terms of a company, they probably didn't view it as worth it because, hey, the PlayStation Vita's physical market, while there are companies like Limited Run and PlayAsia who sell games physically even still to this day and make a good profit. For them, they're like, okay, we're not going to be having an easy time convincing retail partners, blah, 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 blah. If I could go back in time, what I would have said is, hey, you know that store you guys have called the Atlus USA shop that, like, never gets updated? Imagine if they put that online as a physical exclusive on the Atlus USA shop. They would attract so many customers, and they wouldn't have to worry about sending it to any retailers for it to rot in clearance.
Well, I mean, imagine if the Atlas shop was more than just leftovers from Anime Expo.
Yes, the Atlus shop, otherwise known as wow, that was the thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
they shut that down, and I didn't even. I was like, yeah, I get why you shut it down
there
because
were
nobody's
there were zero questions of why when that announcement came last year. It
nobody's
was
buying a Dancing Yukari T-shirt in like 2019.
sorry, Yukari. It was a I'm sure it was a very sparkly T-shirt, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure the only one that sold out was Futaba, and just everyone else was still like 70% off, and then gone forever.
So this is a kind of related question because I was talking about this recently. I'd be curious what you think. Would
Shoot.
you say Persona 5 was released initially in too many different mediums? And when I say that, I mean, if you remember in 2016, the week of it launching, you had the OVA anime special with an announcement of a full series, a manga starting that same week, and the game all launching on the same day.
I honestly, it's more just it's putting too many eggs in one basket, and I kind of see that like even with like to a much larger extent, Pokemon does the exact same thing.
True, but
Where
Pokemon is the most profitable franchise of all time and has
true,
earned the place to be milked. Whereas I personally have never felt Persona 5 or even Persona 4 in its heyday were like milked. I actually find it funny. If you go back and look at how things were spaced out with Persona 4, Persona 5 released way quicker things to each other than Persona 4 ever did. But
well,
yeah,
yeah,
the funny thing with 5 is just looking back on it of like if you look at how they released 5, especially in Japan, it's almost like they were treating it like Mighty Number 9. Like remember in Mighty Number 9, it was going to have a show, it was going to have a movie, we had the Kickstarter, we were going to have like a Kickstarter for the anime as well.
just put the cart before the horse on that one.
Mhm.
He wanted an empire on what really is a subpar game.
But it's like funny because I look back even now though with we just now got the Persona 5 manga a couple months ago thanks to Viz, and the Persona 5 anime, like I never hear anyone really talk about the manga. Like I reviewed it a week or two ago on my channel. I'm far from very current with its release, the manga. I'm the only one who has a video review of that, or any form of review. No one
Huh.
reviewed that manga, which is kind of weird because Persona 5 is a really big IP, like as a game. But think about it like this: how often do you hear people talk about the Persona 5 anime compared to any of the other adaptations there are? Even the Persona 3 movies, which aren't that popular, but I still hear talked about a lot
Frequently,
more.
it's frequently because there's a lot of flaws in it, and it was done by Cloverworks, which is essentially the punching bag of the anime community. And also just like even when I was watching it like upon release, I could see yeah like they rushed this part. There's a weird animation. They spelled skull incorrectly. Like it felt like it was being pushed out the door specifically off the heels of the game. Well, with like the Persona 4 animation, there's clever additions to it. It feels like it wasn't just completely I, I'm rushed, really. There's no better word for it. Like even with the Persona 3, like the four movies were really done. Like they were done well. They were paced properly. They enhanced upon moments from the game. They did everything right. The thing is,
That was a weird time for anime, by the way. Do you remember like that was around the same time as like Digimon Try of like, hey, we're gonna announce these big fan favorites in the form of a movie, but they're all set up as like they kind of feel like 4 episodes of an anime, but they are still a movie, but we're splitting them all up and releasing them every like 6 months.
yeah, it's 4 episodes of an anime. Who are they fooling? Like it's still going. I think they're actually finally finishing Digimon Try.
Oh
I
no no
think
no the
in a few
Digimon
months.
Try is done, but the movie that comes out. Holy crap! I just realized it's March. The movie that comes out this month, is like supposed to be like whereas Digimon season 1 is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is Try. This one that's coming out is called Final Evolution. This one's like the final one.
Fair enough. I always thought that was odd because I was a big Digimon fan as a kid. How season 3, like just in universe, makes 1 and 2 just a show that the other kids were watching.
I appreciate actually a lot of it. I'm actually I'm a hardcore Digimon fan, but it's not even fair to say I lapsed. I was very specific with what I liked. Loved season 1, 2, 3, and 4. The reason 3 and 4 are so different actually is because the show planners and the scenario writers went on to do other things, and the show creators just kind of were like, okay, we can make Digimon a universe without it being like a shared universe, which I always kind of appreciated. But also, if you want to disregard my opinion, I actually think Digimon Frontier is an amazing series where most people think that show sucks.
Wasn't that the one where they all fused with the Digimon?
Yes, and had a
okay, yeah,
had a fantastic
I think I moved on from
dub
Frontier.
opening.
Okay, quickly though, favorite game season Digimon. Go.
For game, I'm gonna be cheap and just say the digital. Sorry, the Cyber Sleuth games. The duology of those are fantastic. They're literally just SMT with Digimon. Favorite series is. Fuck. 1, but 4 is a really close one for nostalgia, even though I know it doesn't hold up as well. And just because you didn't ask, I will say my favorite Digimon movie, if we're not counting the first 3 as that one American one.
The odd anthology with All-Star in it.
Yeah. The Cyber War, the first one is like my favorite movie, where they go into the internet to fight the fucking whatever mon it's called. I think it's like Dobomon or something, but just
it was Diaboromon.
Yes, Diaboromon. Yeah, them going into the internet and fighting Diaboromon is also fantastically gorgeous, and I cannot believe me as a dumb kid in the early 2000s was able to watch that on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, that Bandai just dubbing that and then getting one of the fuck songs they could get. Because honestly, still at the end of the day, Less Than Jake has nothing to do with Digimon.
Well, remember that was a
Fox
Fox decision. That was back when Saban gave it over to Fox Movies department. And
Fox had the full thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of got that impression when like they had a short for Angela Anaconda before the movie. And
No.
We're
not allowed
Digimon.
to say that's before the movie if it is canonically in the movie's runtime. That's like saying yes, like there is no version of the first Digimon movie where the Angela Anaconda stuff is skippable. That is part of the beginning of the movie.
Oh my god, I actually didn't know that because I think I own the tape and nothing else. But and it was very clear that they told no one who made that short what Digimon was about, but just like threw press photos at them and just you figure it out.
Thank you, Angela.
Because it comes off that way very well.
Yeah, Angelamon is also, because she is part of the real movie. Angelamon is canon. I'm sorry to let everyone know this. But what about for you? What is your game? What is your game series pick for Digimon?
This is me being a full kid, but favorite series was Digimon World 2, just because that was the one I got into the most, and that was the moment that I discovered waifus were a thing, because Kairi was my waifu as a 10-year-old.
That's really funny because Digimon World 2 is like the most different out of all the Worlds one. That one's just straight up more like a dungeon RPG.
Yeah, I mean, fucking pretty much. And also still the dub itself is unintentionally hilarious.
Oh yeah, I went through it recently in hype for the new movie. They have so many jokes that are definitely not part of the like original script, but it's just too fucking funny. Like I was just clipping out things from my phone of like things that just do not work in any sense at all, but like I find them all way too funny. Like I even fucking have it like right here, and everyone's gonna hear it in really bad microphone quality.
Oh, please do.
I'm gonna
please share.
Where did you go here?
Because for me, Digimon is all about bad quality that's still very funny.
Yes, this joke makes me laugh way too hard every time I hear it.
It wasn't. I got Mimi's machine.
Hi, it's Mimi. I'm so glad you called. Let's get together for lunch. Leave a very short message after the beep.
Like that, like shit like that is clearly not part of the original script, but it's just like, God, that's so fucking funny.
There are a lot of jokes that were just added in because, like in terms of the flow of the show, there wasn't a joke there before, and then I just threw it in.
I have told my girlfriend, by the way, she has zero Digimon experience outside of random clips I've shown her. You are going to see this last movie with me, and there is no way I will be seeing this last movie and not just sobbing by the end of it. I can't imagine that movie is not going to just leave me in like a bubbling mess of tears.
Oh shit, and then I guess that means that the epilogue for Digimon World 2 doesn't exist anymore. If they're not just going to coexist with their Digimon well into adulthood.
Yeah, it's a good point, because it's kind of like the weird different levels of Sonic like canon of like there are very few Digimon games and series outside of the original Adventure Crew that like keep in with each other, because there's like all the different games, like all the old World series and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it's all different people and different Digimon. This is like World really is the only one that tries to have some kind of consistency to it.
Did you play New World on PS4?
I have not. I played Cyber Sleuth, and I played Digimon World 2 as a kid.
Where did you play Cyber Sleuth?
PS4.
Okay, fun fact for anyone out there who is curious, and if I may have piqued your interest, Cyber Sleuth recently came out on PC and Switch, which I know attracted a lot of people.
Boy, oh
so,
boy.
That port was developed by Hand, who's usually a really good developer. They did all of the Kingdom Hearts DS games, which, while not always super technically loved, like in terms of a technical feat, they're pretty impressive. Whatever they did while making those ports, the Vita version runs better than the PC and Switch version.
What the fuck?
Yeah, which, like, I mean, it makes sense when you kind of think about it in the sense of, like, hey, these were originally PS Vita only games, because the PS4 version came after Vita. But it's just one of those things of like, yeah, man, that's really weird that like a game they're releasing in 2019 can't run as well on the Switch as it can on the Vita.
Oh, that is fucking hilarious. But yeah, I guess my favorite's too, just because of it's the one I grew up with, dungeon crawling, and that the biggest challenge was getting Vmon. I was able to get that little fucker.
Did you see? Apparently they brought back the old like little handheld Digimon Tamagotchi things.
Oh, nice.
I never actually knew anyone with them. I saw people with Tamagotchis, but I never saw anyone with the Digimon ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had it, because I remember I was me and my grade school friends, we were all into Pokemon at the time, and my mom told me there was a Saturday morning cartoon that had Charizard in it. I was like, oh, I got to check this out, and that was not Charizard, but I liked it more.
So, speaking of things that are definitely not Charizard, you mentioned this earlier. You went to your first press event. Atlus had invited you out. Oh
boy, did I.
Atlus invited you out, and you did your own little vlog kind of documenting everything because you're in New York, right?
Yes, I live in New York City.
So you got flown out to LA, got to check out Royal. I would normally, we're not here, unfortunately, to self-fillet you and tell you how amazing it was, but I would be very curious what your kind of thoughts was of actually sitting down and playing Royal, not in terms of an impression, because you have a video about that, and I have seen that. I'd be very curious, like, as someone who covers it, what did you think of that event? Because I remember being, even at the original announcement of it, very confused why they wanted to do a preview so close to release when the full game was already ready.
Honestly, I initially had asked one of the PR managers like why was it so close, and it said it was half a press event and half just a thank you for making Persona 5 sell as godly as it did. Like, that was their justification for having like everything Persona 5 themed, and it wasn't just, oh, like, here's this press event, here's where you put your capture card, and here's how long you get to play the game. Where it was like they went full on, made everything look like Hamoshida's Dungeon, and they had an open bar and all that. It was a half celebration, half press event. And unfortunately, because I have an old capture card that's kind of butt, that I had to play it off the monitor of my laptop. So you can kind of tell if you look at the preview event or the preview footage, that I'm walking around with a considerable delay. Where it's like I moved the stick and Joker just threw himself into a wall. So
I don't know.
I had a better experience at home.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously with kind of stuff like that. Were you surprised, by the way, when you sat down and just saw it was the full build of the game?
Yeah, I was giddy. I was very,
Was
I
there
was
any
very
was there
giddy.
any party that was like, so should we just just press that new game button, just see what's going on in that new game opening? Or I was very curious because it seemed very loosey goosey in terms of, it didn't seem like super strict, because obviously you had the 4 save slots of picking where you kind of wanted, and from what I had
Yeah.
assessed, everyone had about like what, a 2-hour time limit.
Hour actually.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, for Game Explained, there was two of those guys there, so they kind of cheesed it.
Hey, if it's 2 people experiencing an hour, then that technically counts as 2 hours of playing.
Absolutely. But I think that they weren't like monitoring over us like crazy. There were 2 guys from the PR company that Atlus hired, and then there was a Joker cosplayer and a Kasumi cosplayer that were definitely Atlus employees. And I imagine that if you hit new game, or if you went too far into something, that they would have said, "Hey, you can't do that." But oddly enough, I think I was the only one to get footage of the twins at Big Bang Burger from like all the footage that I saw. So I think that they were pretty lax on like what you could experience and what you couldn't experience.
So, from what you can kind of remember, from the outside perspective, at least for the Western one, obviously, neither one of us are really going to know, because there was also a European version of that press event.
Oh yeah.
A
That one
lot
had
of voice actors and Atlus staff were there. Like, how many other like actual media people did you see there? So like, we know Game Explained were there. We know you were there. Like, did any people that kind of like recognized for you? Because I saw way more like industry working people than actually like media coverage people, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, it was definitely a small event. There were a bunch of dudes that I didn't get to talk to, so I didn't know where they were from. But somebody I met from Polygon. I'm friends with a guy from GameSpot, where we hung out most of the night and just talked the Trails of Cold Sky series and Soccer Awards, because he was big into that, and then we ended up going back to the hotel
You
for
get
drinks.
flown down to talk about Persona 5 Royal. You'd be like, hey, mate, what a fucking Trails of Cold Steel 4. When are we getting this
Yeah.
bad boy? What's going on?
Because I've never played it, so the entire time he's just selling me on the game. And then we were talking about like other Sega stuff, and Soccer Wars came up, because that's coming out actually next month.
Yep.
It's officially next month. But yeah, there was one dude from GameSpot. There was a guy specifically from PlayStation. He gave me his Twitter credentials, because I came out there with a business card, and he just said, yeah, like, here's my Twitter handle. Hit me up if you ever need anything PlayStation. And I probably should have hit him up for Dreams, to be honest.
I mean, I feel like if you just slide into anyone who works at PlayStation right now, they'll be like, do you want to talk about Dreams? We would love for anyone to talk about Dreams. Because literally all the coverage I'm seeing about Dreams is fucking like YouTubers right now making Let's Plays. Like, what the fuck is this? I just made Peter Griffin do a fucking 69 Heil Hitler. Whoa, what a game! I'm like, oh.
The marketing on that was nothing. And actually, me and my friend Fidel, he's been, before Dreams came out, basically his marketing plan for Dreams was shitting on Sony for not making any marketing plans for Dreams.
Thank you, Sony.
I mean, how do you even market a game that's all about making a game?
Sony's marketing is
make
one of those
commercial
weird entities of, they pick one game a year to market. They market it really, really hard and really, really well most of the time, unless you're Death Stranding, and then you have that weird crying ad where everything floods, but no one really saw that ad. Yeah, so Sony's never really been known for their fantastic coverage of that. But kind of going back to the preview and more getting your opinion on the event as itself, my take on it when I kind of saw everyone's preview coverage in terms of what was being allowed to be shown and stuff like that, and obviously without getting into stuff that's in Royal, because I've not really spoiled anything story-wise myself, do you feel like at the end of the day, the stuff they chose to let people in the press play and yourself, do you think that was the best way to sell people on why they need to pay $60 for Royal? Because at the end of the day, I did not get that feeling at all. I got a lot of people talking about the grappling hook, Kasumi, not playing billiards, and playing darts. That was like all the preview coverage just like summed up into one sentence.
And I was the only one who decided, yeah, I should probably play billiards because darts is going to fuck me up with this delay. But what they should have done, personally, is given my palace, given them time and mementos just to show off like the new battle mechanics and the new random shit that happens in Mementos. Given some Kasumi time, which, you really got to pick and choose there because she's very tied to the new story. And probably just like an average day that shows off like new portraits and just like new quality of life stuff. But
because like
it was more grappling
a lot of
hook,
the
like,
takeaways were like very not even like super specific to Royal stuff. Like there wasn't anything really about the new confidant outside of what if you were being generous, 5-minute cutscene with Kasumi. Absolutely none of the marketing has talked about the new semester. I feel like it's really easy to say, hey, there's new story, but I feel like you sell it a lot easier when you say, there is 30 hours of a whole new semester in this game. Like, you don't have to say what it is. You could just say, hey, there is basically a whole nother extra game at the end of this game.
It really is kind of like two levels of different extremes in terms of their marketing, because Atlus Japan oversold fucking everything in Royal. And for this one, Atlus West is underselling it like crazy. Like, I had consulted Sarah because I wanted like some advice when I was making the calendar, because I wanted to make a day for Maruki, one of the new characters in Royal. And she said a lot of his stuff is tied into the story, and we are deliberately leaving him out of marketing for that very reason. So I think you might want to wait until after reviews if you want to talk about Maruki.
You know what I'm wondering for? What day of the week are we putting Human Morgana on? How do we throw Human Morgana on?
He's just going to be a Mona Monday, and he's going to be exactly as he is in Royal, just chilling while everybody else looks at, man, what the fuck happened?
Muscular Mona Monday.
Because that was I think I still have VODs of my entire time playing Royal in Japanese, and Human Morgana is just so oddly integrated, where you just it kind of feels like you're doing a jigsaw puzzle, and you found a puzzle that used the same cutting pattern, so you have a piece from a different puzzle and it fits, but it's not supposed to be there.
So, like, I don't know about your community, but has your community kind of been apprehensive? Like, what's your community's reception to Royal been? Because for the most part, a lot of SMTN talk has been, okay, I'm excited about it, I'm going to get it because I'm a fan, but I feel like they're having a hard time selling everybody on it being $60, which, boy, I feel like every time anyone complains about Royal being $60, they need to get a time machine, go back to October of last year, and personally apologize with a very deep Japanese businessman bow and say, I'm sorry, you had to pay $90+ for this.
Well, that was also a big running joke that during the climax of the new semester, and I'm watching all of this shit go down, and I just say, yeah, this definitely should have been DLC, guys. I don't know about you.
It's also interesting because I don't know how when I was hanging out with Gnarly last night, I got on a weird topic when I was talking with him, and I just went, do you know why Fez is called Fez? Because, like, I was thinking, like, Royal and Golden thematically makes sense in terms of, like, the color schemes and stuff like that.
You didn't know.
Oh, no, I had known it, and I had forgotten that it stood for festival, but it got me, like, looking it up because it had just been so long. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, and I looked it up, and I was like, I forgot. In Japan, they actually did just sell the answer as its own disc. So it would kind of be curious, like, obviously now they wouldn't just print a disc that is just a third semester, integrating save changes. Like, I've never been on the camp that thinks that Royal should be DLC, even without having played it, just because I'm aware of how ridiculously complicated like making those saves work, and I think if they just took a third semester, made it into a DLC expansion that, let's say it's like The Witcher, where if you want to play it with a fresh save you could, or if you want to bring over your old Persona 5 save you could, I feel like it would have felt a lot less natural and would kind of limit them, as opposed to, okay, have a clean fresh start from the beginning, really kind of ease your way into that third semester, because it's not like it's going to go in Royal where the credits rolled in 5, then there's another semester. It's woven in there differently, like, than the ending would normally be.
Dude, honestly, and I guess this will be something for your listeners as a testament to how much I enjoyed Royal, is that it rolled in without me noticing, where I had to go back and went, Oh, okay, so this is where the new content started. I completely missed it. And honestly, I think that it being its own game actually benefits it more because then they can tweak gameplay overall. They can pepper in a lot of new things. Like I was totally completely thrown when I was waiting at the platform and I just see other characters that I already recognized just chilling in front of me or behind me and doing whatever, but not acknowledging my presence. I was like, oh wow, this really helps me feel like this world is more lived in. That it kept going before and after Joker leaves.
So, sticking on the topic of Royal, but without obviously getting into like any like spoilers, from your time you've spent with the Japanese copy of Royal and with what little time you've had so far, actually, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't actually ask you. Have you gotten review code yet for Royal, or are you still waiting?
I threw my hat into the ring, but I don't know yet.
That's
I
okay.
think that
I wasn't sure what end you kind of like landed on, because I know Big Press has it right now.
yeah, they still consider me the level of
Yeah, okay, so you're kind of
influencer.
like in the influencer like lower fan kind of, okay, so you're with us normies. I'm in the same boat as you as well.
Yeah.
I just
So
know that
I'll either get it
there are
launch day
people
or maybe a
playing it,
couple
so I
days
wasn't
before.
sure if you already had it.
No, if I did, I would have been talking more on like not my experiences that happened in November. It would have been a lot more fresh.
So going back from what you have touched and everything, what are your sort of worries or complaints if you have them from the time you've spent or kind of looking ahead of the North American release?
Oh, what complaints am I expecting from
No, no,
people
no.
once they play Royal?
Specifically you. Like right now, from your time you've put into it and leading up to the North American release, like what are some things that either might be nitpicks or like things that's like kind of irk you or stick out to you?
Um, a lot of the things that I thought could have been tweaked or changed, some things remain unchanged, and it might just be a matter of, well, I just see it differently than they do.
Can you give me an example of like one?
Um, the lead up to Haru's arc, like to the Okumura Palace, that a lot of the bickering, it doesn't feel as severe, but it doesn't feel like anything changed either. And I like it could also just be a language barrier where I don't where because it didn't feel like Morgana's outburst was him just sitting on his hands and then exploding. It felt more like a gradual process, but that could just be in my brain
Okay, that makes
because
sense.
again I can't read, so maybe everything happened as is. But one thing that I am happy about is that they did tweak they tweaked the what is it called? Oh, why are you blanking on this right now? The airlock puzzle. It felt like the airlock puzzle was less challenging and less annoying than it was before. But that also could be because I played the game 6 times over.
Um, I would be curious. What is your thoughts? I started a discussion thing a little bit ago. I think, God, maybe like a week or two,
Hmm.
of I was looking back at some of the PR stuff that had come out for it, and I'm like, I'm kind of amazed the community has not raised a bigger stink that we have 5 different launch SKUs for Royal. Whereas like we give a lot of shit to like games like The Division or like Assassin's Creed or like even like stuff like Call of Duty where there's like here's the deluxe edition, here's the bonus edition, here's the ultimate edition, here's the collector's edition, but it doesn't actually have any DLC in that edition. Of like I'm surprised people didn't raise a bigger deal about that, and that's still leading up to release. Outside of me bringing it up is what it feels like. No one's ever been like, how are you releasing this game at $60 and also at the same day releasing all of its DLC in a $60 bundle and don't think that looks bad? Like, it looked bad when you released all the DLC for full body, because and that was like what, like for all of it was like sub $20 in a bundle or something, and like that already felt kind of sleazy. But the
I think it was 25 and that was marked down from like the $60 that it was in Japan.
Well, the reason the DLC, especially in fucking full body, is a lot harder to sell is they straight up didn't even localize it. Like the voices for Catherine are just all the original Japanese voices. They did. I thought the cool thing about that Catherine DLC is like on the surface, like having 6 or 7 different new voices for Catherine. What's cool about that is that it was like very famous Japanese voice actors like coming in to do their take of the role, and I thought, oh, that would be so interesting if they did that, but with like very notable female voice actors in the Western side of the industry. So imagine getting stuff like Laura Bailey doing C. Catherine, or like different like notable actors and stuff like that, like giving their take on the DLC as opposed to Japanese actors you probably don't know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that might have been like the only explanation I could think of would be like a budgetary thing.
Oh no, yeah, I've never wondered why. It was just it was one of those things that if you're gonna bring it over, why? Because even I don't know if you remember, in Japan, Full Body actually had like the Joker stuff was pre-order bonus.
Yes, it was.
So that was also weird. Of like, what? That seemed like the easiest to sell to include. Like I was really surprised that wasn't. And even the see-through glasses was included with the collector's edition. So it was always kind of a weird one. And I've always kind of thought, okay, we know why you do it. Obviously, you need to like make more money for it. Like, because in the West, there is a trend. Like, you have to sell your game for $60, and asking any more is basically a death sentence. Unfortunately, that's usually advocated in different ways with like different purchases and stuff like that. So, like, how do you personally feel about the $60 DLC launch bundle for Royal?
I think that it should be definitely spaced out more instead of it just kind of being all.
No, see, if you space it out, then that you're just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. The problem isn't like when it's coming out, I feel like, because like if you do that, it's like because they spaced it out with Persona 4 Dancing and Persona 5. Like we pretty much had a matched DLC schedule of every couple of weeks we would get DLC similar to how they did in Japan. But when it's already all done and completed, what's the point of spacing it out if we already know what's coming?
I think it's just to keep attention on it. That's my rationale has always been that it's just to add more attention to it after it launches. Like, do we even have a date for Narukami and Makoto as boss fights, or is that just going to be some? We do.
Officially known? No, they're launch. I know. They're on the PSN store backend. The DLC's already been loaded into the system. When review codes went live a week or two ago, all the DLC also got put on the store, so you could see it through the back end of the store. So yeah, they are in the system, so presumably, like they've said every other DLC is going to be included in terms of personas and costumes. It would be weird to leave those off, because even Japan didn't leave them off at launch.
I'm just really hoping that it would be something, well, because Atlus West, they really do try and clean up the mess of the giant price points that become like the DLC packages for Persona games. Because what is Royal? Isn't it like over $200 of DLC? Like something ridiculous?
Royal's tough, because are we counting the new DLC, or are we also looping in the OG DLC?
I think we would be looping in the old stuff.
If you looped it in, then yeah, it'd probably get at least over 150.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping that Atlus West does that it's free for 2 weeks for Narukami.
You know what? They actually haven't talked about, because remember they said when they announced the game and the DLC that all the original Persona 5 DLC, whether you bought it or not, will be free in Royal. They've not actually said how that's going to be implemented. I wonder if it'll just be on the store free forever, or if that is a timed thing.
I think that'll be free. Because I know that they definitely tiptoe with DLC just because of the West perception of overcharging, and they don't want to get crucified more than they already do.
Fun little fact. I don't know how well you were covering Persona 3, 5, and the PlayStation 4 port of 4 dancing. Did you know the way Atlus USA handled it at the time was actually worse than Japan?
Yeah, it was.
So, like,
yeah, it was.
If you guys don't
that
know,
whole thing was a fucking mess.
If you guys don't know how that was handled, Persona 4 on PlayStation 4 dancing, that was exclusive to a collector's edition, and all of the DLC was not included in the base game. It still all had to be re-downloaded again. In Japan, that port, if you bought the DLC for it on your Vita, it was cross-buy. which makes sense because it's like I bought every piece of DLC for Dancing. But the US release, and I have always chalked this up to it. I have asked Atlus, they have never given me an official statement. I have like emails of like when that launched and I saw that it wasn't crossed by the DLC. My mind was just so slack-jawed because at the end of the day that was probably just user error. And you have to think how many people bought enough DLC on Vita and bought this PlayStation 4 Collector's Edition, which was the only way to get this port of Dancing. Like, yeah, I'm probably the only. I'm only like one of the few guys who actually like bought that and was like wondering where the hell it was. But it just sucked because it was like Atlus Japan, like you mentioned, is usually far and above way sleazier about their DLC. That is always one of those things that always rubs me such the wrong way. Of like, man, why would anyone double dip on this DLC for like an exclusive downloadable port of like something that you already have on Vita? It was just so weird and one of those odd moments of like.
And it's not even great DLC. I'll give Adachi and Marie. Those are like the really good ones.
I'm a sucker for Dancing. I actually love at least all the song DLCs. I really loved they had the music video DLCs. Those are all like 99 cents where instead of watching them dancing, you could watch the special music videos they made for them. Like there was a lot of interesting stuff even outside of the costumes and wigs and contacts. But that was one of those things that just definitely rubs me the wrong way of, man, it sucks that I know not enough people care about Dancing that was ever going to change, but that was just one of those odd ones of like, man, you could make such a goodwill gesture by just like flipping that switch, because like I know what you would have to do. You just have to contact Sony. You'd have to do a weird licensing right thing. It would probably take like an extra week or two. But I think at the end of the day, they went down and said, okay, how many people are actually going to play Dancing on PS4? How many people bought this collection and bought DLC on Vita? And goes down to the whole argument of Spencer's the only one who cares. Whatever.
I mean, I knew one guy who would always ask me, like, oh, is the DLC out for Persona 4 Dancing on PS4? I was like, I haven't heard any formal announcements, so I don't know.
That's also, in terms of, like, if you're loading that into the back end of Sony, how weird is that, by the way? An exclusive, downloadable-only game getting DLC for that as well. Because like it's still so weird because like Atlus JP, I think they're gonna stick to their word. They've said that will never get a physical release. That seems really weird to me because actually Persona 4 Dancing is the best received out of all three of those games. I feel like if you just like release that with all the DLC on the disc for like $20 or $30, I feel like quite a lot of people would buy that.
I think that honestly both games have their strong suits. Like I enjoyed the character interaction more for 3 and 5, but also 3 and 5 had 0 to no story whatsoever. So if you're going there looking for a story to go with your with Dancing, obviously 4 is the better way to go.
I appreciate at least that 3 and 5, they know what they are. When that game starts and everyone's in the Velvet Room, they're like, "Oh, we're all just dreaming." And as soon as we wake up, we'll never remember any of this. It was like, wow, literally, like you just told me no reason to, like, there's no reason to care about this, which it's fine. Like you said, there's no story, and the interactions are just fan service at their most fan service.
Absolutely.
But the fact that they're in there, they're fun. There's lots of cute little moments and stuff like that. It's just one of those great things of like, hey, there's no way we could make this canon and have it not be stupid. So this is all just a big dream.
I mean, it is canon in a roundabout way.
It is canon in the way that Persona Q is canon. When Persona Q ends, it's still canon, but everyone fucking forgets it. So you're the only reason it's canon.
Yeah, there's a part. It has a point on the timeline, which is something that slightly bothers me. Is that the people who say like Persona 4 or 5 Royal isn't canon because Scramble takes place right after Vanilla? I was like, they're good. Atlus goes out of their way to tell you that shared dreams have a place on the timeline. What makes you think Royal isn't going to be part of that too?
It's very interesting though because there's a
reason.
I
think it suffers from the same thing that Golden and Arena suffered from. Is that they were made at the same time, so of course the one that's the sequel is not going to have anything from the Enhanced Edition because they didn't know it was being made at the same time.
Yeah, because like Scramble has that weird thing of like its development happened before, during, and after Royal, which is so crazy because like most people don't know that Scramble entered development winter of 2016 and they finished it in December of 2019. which is insane to think about, like how long the
It
development time
absolutely
was. Although considering how long I've been playing and how much is in that game, I am not surprised. That is a beefy game.
But now I want Persona's Scramble Ultimax that will have Goro Akechi and we'll have Kasumi, and we can all talk about what happened in Royal, and we can keep moving forward.
That will be the Western, around the Western launch date of. I've talked to some people about why Persona 5 Scramble doesn't have DLC yet. And I think if you look back at how Tecmo Koei as a company works, they've always released their games very close to worldwide release timing. And think about it like this. There's no reason to release DLC now for Japan only when the game is going to come out in another like 5 to 6 months in the rest of the world, where they can just release all of that DLC at once and give that one big new swell.
So you're thinking that instead of it not happening, period, that they're holding off and they're going to announce something like in a couple months from now.
Oh yeah, 100%. The plan like that makes the most sense in my headcanon is this. The game comes out in June in Asia, July in the rest of the world, and then at the launch or around the Western release, a season pass will get announced. You'll get 3 sets. You'll get the first one is going to be Persona 3, Persona 4, or Persona 5, or if they go crazy, because actually there is a lot of Persona 1 and 2 references in Persona 5 Scramble.
I mean, I've noticed that just with Persona 5, period, that almost every spinoff has references to 1 and 2 in it.
Exactly. So
like Royal even goes as far as SMT9, which I was completely shocked by.
Yeah, it's really insane, but like the crazy thing with it is like the game sets itself up for DLC so incredibly well that like it would be very easy for them just to do like a season pass of, hey, here's 2 characters or something for the game, here's some more music, here's maybe a level, or at the very least here's some more quests, and then you can run around and level up your characters like that. Like, because think about it like this, there's no reason for them to do it now just for Japan, because then it goes back to the DLC complaint problem. Release it in Japan now, make us pay for it again when the Western one happens, and have people complain that you're forcing us to double dip.
Well, I mean, okay, yeah, fair enough. Because honestly, it did come as a shock to me because both Koei Tecmo and Atlus are very DLC hungry companies. So to see them not do it was like, well, what the fuck?
I'm very fine with that because I think there was honestly a lot of questions even after the demo came out of we just didn't know what gameplay there really was in it. Like, okay, we know that the gameplay is not a traditional Muso type, but like, is there still going to be free battle modes? Is there going to be co-op? Like, we didn't even know till like a month before the game came out that it was single player only, and just different things like that. So they've kept it very close to the like chest and stuff of like, okay, how traditional are we really treating this? But I am excited though when DLC will inevitably get announced that people can see what quality DLC looks like, because as much as I love Atlus, none of their DLC has ever honestly been very good for the best bang for your buck. Whereas I know Tecmo Koei gets a lot of shit for Dead or Alive, which is very cosmetics heavy. If you look at any of the Warrior games, especially Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors, they have like the best amount of content for how much you pay for it out of any season pass I've ever bought in my life.
Hyrule Warriors was perfect with how it handled DLC. 100% perfect. And there are a couple, and I will say like it's a solid handful of DLC for Persona that works well. Like I'll definitely give it to like Margaret and Adachi and Marie for Ultimax.
But see, you've just still proven my point. Not developed by Atlus. Oh. That's an Arc Systems.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I guess then for Persona Q, the Nautical Navigator was the only one that I felt like was worth money.
I still want to give it to you, but unfortunately that's still not developed by Atlus. That is the Etrian Odyssey team.
Oh, fuck. That's not... Etrian Odyssey isn't under Atlus?
Etrian Odyssey is a studio owned by Atlus, but that is a different development company.
Okay,
the
fair
team,
enough.
When I mean Atlus, I'm meaning the team who makes SMT and Atlus. Like, so P Studio, Studio ReZero, and I guess just whatever the generic SMT team is.
I think I'll have you on this one, because this one is very specific. It is the Featherman costume set for Royal. That is absolutely one that was worth buying.
That's great. And actually, How much DLC did you end up getting in Royal? Because I have a weird Royal question I've not actually got an answer for anyway.
I have the person who provided me the copy. They basically bought it digital and they provided me their account information.
Perfect.
So and they kept upping it with all of the DLC for Royal. Like they literally just bought everything.
With Royal, did they ever change how DLC music works, or is it just the same as it is in 5? Of whatever costume you have, that's the music that plays?
Yeah, same as in 5.
Okay, so Persona 5 Scramble shits on that idea and does what Persona 5 should. I don't know if you know this. So you can use the battle themes from Persona 1 through 5 Royal. So
Yes,
they have
I
all
did
the
see
different
that.
battle themes, including the new one in Scramble. You can pick what battle theme you want in the menu at any time, or you can put it on shuffle. And you pick what songs you
nice.
want, and so it's on a loop. Because my big complaint with the DLC songs in 5 has always been, I want to look like, I'll just pick a random one. I want to look like Rido, but I want to have the SMT if theme playing. Like I want like all the kind of like I want them to cross over and meld into each other. And it always seemed so weird that you had to pick a costume to play that song.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if anything, it's just consistent.
I will say this though.
I never tried it
I don't know
outside
if you are aware of this. Do you know what the save data bonus is for Scramble?
Yes, I do.
For anyone out there,
for Scramble.
Yes, for Scramble.
Oh, I didn't know the bonus for Scramble.
Okay, so just to set up how low the bar was for save data bonuses, what was the save bonus, if you recall, for Royal, if you have 5?
I believe it was a handful of healing items and 150,000 yen.
So instead of getting a
Was it a lot?
Yes. Instead of getting a pat on the back with a pinky, Scramble, if you have save data from Persona 5, gives you that game's battle theme as an option to then select from the DLC roulette wheel. And if you have Royal, you can do the same thing, and the Royal theme for battles are now available to use in Scramble. And
so you just get that shit for free?
Yeah, and it's such like a cool little thing of like that's such a little thing to do, but that's so nice of like, okay, I have like, because the battle themes are so unique and they're so different than like are just sum up those games of like when you're hearing like whether it be Time to Make History or like Mass Destruction or whatever, it's like you like get those evocative feelings for it where those games soundtracks, so like having just one track is like so powerful even to have like as just a nice bonus as opposed to here's some money and some healing items.
I mean, to be fair, it did help out in the long run because like as soon as that Holy Stone showed up, I was just flashing cash, just like okay, sure, whatever, it's not gonna hurt me anything.
So I guess kind of going away from Royal because we still have quite a little bit of ways to go. But before I wrap it up, what is your plan? If anyone out there is curious in terms of how are you planning on covering it or kind of going at it leading up to launch and kind of going past it?
I mean, my main goal plan was to like do an actual like a write-up review, to do preview coverage, like any hint videos, maybe even try something ridiculous like a like one of like a trophy hunter thing, because you can get a platinum in there pretty easy. I think I could do it, and also just then once we're free to talk about spoilers, of course, have discussions about like Kasumi's story and Maruki's story and how other characters' story changes, and just freely integrating that into the theme days that I do on Twitter. And then also with Facebook, it's just, hey, now I can actually post memes about like Kasumi and Maruki and stuff like that.
So for yourself, I don't know how much of a collector you are. Are you going for the physical collectors or standard edition, if at all?
Oh, I have one rule with collector's editions is that I'm willing to put the money in if it's a Persona game.
I was thinking like, all right, what's this rule gonna be? So basically, as long as it has the word Persona on it, you'll buy it.
I mean, pretty much. They have my soul. They've had my soul for a couple of years.
Do you have a holy grail for your collection, or one you are most proud of owning, whether it be really rare or crazy?
This is a bit of a cop out, but can I say the calling card that Atlus sent me a few weeks ago?
That's not a cop out. You got personal mail from Atlus. That's a cool little thing you ding.
I've got I actually have repurposed the box that the special edition of Persona 5 came in, and all like any mail that I get from fans or anything like special that I get that's that's sentimental, that has sentimental value to me. I put it in there. And one that I got was a year or two ago when I met my friend Leanne, which we were talking a lot online, and she had given me a calling card that she had like literally made, where she had like clipped out like letters from the newspaper and made a straight up calling card that just says like thank you for all of your hard work. And I was like, oh fucking, I think it actually did get me. It did get me tearing up a bit.
I can relate to that. I remember this. I'll always remember this memory from people had set this up on our Facebook group. My birthday in 2017 was actually the day I met my girlfriend exactly for the very first time as well.
Aww.
As soon as she had left, I went on Facebook because I was like all giddy or whatever from being a big sappy dummy. I went onto my Facebook and I saw that they had made a basically video like wishing me happy birthday and stuff, and then compiled everyone like saying it to me. It basically was like an anime ending happening in my real life of like it just playing, and I just remember just crying sitting there on the couch being like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, that made me. It's really a surreal moment when you feel like that the nonsense that you're doing on the internet actually means something.
Yeah. That's no, but that is a really, really cool one for you. And do not make it feel bad that your highlight is something that was sent to you. I still think, I don't know if it's my favorite thing I own in my collection, but the vinyl that Atlus Europe did for dancing, 3 and 5 dancing.
Yeah, I got that one too.
Will forever be that like, wow, this is really weird, but like it's so cool because I actually do really, really like music and I love like video game soundtracks and vinyl. But that's like one of those weird ones of that's always a hard one for me to bring up a lot because that is so hard to not bring up and just sound like you're just like a fucking like smug like piece of shit. Because do you know how many of those were made?
Like 90, weren't they?
It was less. I'm gonna pull it up because I
remember it was either 90 or 80 something, but it was really
I feel like
a
it
small
was like
amount.
60 or smaller.
Oh fuck, because yeah, I got that one too directly from Atlus, and I just realized, well, I gotta get a vinyl record player.
Have you played it by the way yet? Because mine has
I guess I have.
Mine has a funny error where the stickers for Persona 3 and 5 are flipped on the wrong side. So the side that says P5 plays 3 P3 songs, and the side that pays P5 plays 3 P3 songs. Wow, that's really hard to say.
Yeah, the stickers were okay on mine.
I love that. I actually that made me enjoy it more. That like not only do I have this thing that's really stupidly rare, but it even has a production error on it.
You actually, I think I can top yours only a little bit because I became friends with the person who started the production for the vinyl.
Well, hold on, really quick. I will say
shit.
this: the final number, there were 65 in the world.
65, and two owners right here talking to each other.
Number three is LaRue, who I remember the day I got it, I felt so bad because I told him I have no idea how you're gonna get this, but I know I knew he was going to have to hunt one down, and I think he ended up there was some contest winner had got it. He basically tracked him down and was like, I will buy this from you. I just need this, please. And he was like, oh, whatever.
That's one thing now with Atlus and Sega where they're looking out more to content creators and like community managers to help them get the word out. They need to talk to LaRue more. For real. And anytime I ever see one of the PR people say, tag your favorite content creator.
Weird question, actually. Were you just like kind of given the vinyl randomly, or had anything led up? Because actually, the only reason I have that vinyl is actually that's like it's an apology vinyl.
Oh, now okay. My story first, then your story, because I got to hear that one. This was actually around June of 2 years ago, where Sarah had reached out to me and said specifically that I work for Atlus and that I've been following you for a while and I want to include you more in like our marketing in the future. And when the doctors resuscitated me, I responded with a thank you. But she had given out like she wanted to do contests with me for codes, and then in December was just straight up, we're sending you something special as a thank you for being you the whole year, and it was the vinyl. And I went, oh fuck, I now need to start collecting vinyls.
That is a really cool story. So, and
I need to hear your apology.
Mine is literally the inverse of that. So, I'm totally forgetting his name. It might have been William something. So after John Harden left Atlus in terms of being PR, someone took over for
William
him.
Chen.
Yes. I think actually, I don't know why I'm like half blanking on that. But yeah, so during that era of Atlus, I am not kidding you, from 2017 or so, maybe even earlier, from 2017 to, it's still an ongoing process, so we'll just say now, but this equated to the vinyl in December of 2018. I had been trying to get another Atlus employee on this podcast, because I'd had John on a couple of times, and I plan on making a whole video going over, once I finally do get another interview with him, I just want to then go over all the steps I went through, because I have tracked every little bit along the way. But the TLDR version of it was email Atlus US, Atlus emails me back, I email to Japan emails Atlus US, they email me back. Oh, by the way, all of these steps space about 6 to 4 weeks in between each one. Neither one of these are quick respond times from anyone who's not me. The world's just like most delayed interview, and because it was originally just supposed to be new leadership at Atlus West. I have a ton of community questions. The community just wants to talk to you guys. Originally, was the furthest it ever got was right before Strange Journey Redux came out in America, and then kind of just fell into a lot quieter lull after Dancing. And I remember Sarah had reached out to me eventually, was like, hey, this is a huge fucking just disaster clusterfuck or whatever, for me stealing all the words she definitely did not actually use, but for lack of a better word, that is what it was. And after jumping through all these hoops and nothing happening at the end, she randomly messaged me one day. I was like, hey, what's your address? And I'm like, oh, it's just this. And then when I got it sent, I was like, this is fantastic. And I remember sitting next to my girlfriend at the time being like, would have been nice to get that interview, though. But hope is not completely dead. Even though hashtags are currently keeping, and I always forget her name. Is it Ari or Avi?
It's Ari.
Besides the internet basically scaring Ari off Twitter because of hashtag dumb things, I have actually been in communication with her recently, and a interview is potentially happening. But my grand scheme is, once I do finally get another interview, just to release all of this information I put out and be like, here is how long it takes to deal with a Japanese company who has a Western branch who lets them do nothing independently on their own.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. The one time I actually hung out with Sarah because she was in New York City, so I said, oh, let's get lunch. I found out that Atlus Japan doesn't actually, they don't supply any of the PR managers with, Japanese copies of the games that they're promoting.
Oh, no, yeah, of course not.
Yeah, so they have to just straight up buy it from them. I'm like, that seems like kind of a necessity to your job, huh?
It's so weird, because, the way... Because I think Atlus is in that weird sense of it's not like an Access Games or an NIS, where they're taking games from other developers in Japan and a different company is publishing it over here. At the end of the day, Atlus Sega is still trying to put out Atlus Sega games, but it's still they're pulling teeth twice as hard, even though it's from their own mouth.
Yeah, and one thing I definitely will never agree with in regards to Sega leadership is they just said, yeah, we'll just let Atlus do whatever. We're not going to interfere. And I really want them to.
Now, are you talking in terms
because
of Japan
sometimes
or in terms of America?
I think in terms of Japan and America, because isn't it Japan just oversees everything?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. This actually goes back to a topic I alluded to a little earlier at the beginning of the show. Of Atlus in the West, there is no difference between Atlus and Sega. If you work at Atlus, you work at Sega. There's no one person who's excuse me, I only do playtesting for Persona games. I don't touch these Sonic games. It's a very close-knit
because
circle.
half the people that are promoting like the person I know who's working on Royal is also working on Sakura Wars and has also worked on Yakuza.
Yeah, so look at that compared to Japan. Even though when Sega bought Atlus in 2013, like, guess what though, guys? They are still separate companies. Like, the PR, the marketing, all of the ways of development, they are not intertwined at all. They do not make a big shared building all together and stuff. So it's really interesting, though, that, like, while they're still super separate and very much like kind of how Activision is with Blizzard, where, yes, they're owned, but they're not, like, one hand doesn't move both objects. I've always kind of wondered why Atlus in the West doesn't just make, like, a combined name or just put both on the box, just because it's still weird that we call Atlus US. It's weird that we call Atlus West a thing still, when at the end of the day they are still just Sega. Because, like, at the end of the day, those offices are shared, so it's kind of like, okay, outside of aesthetic reasons, what's really stopping Sega from putting their logo on Persona 5 Royal or Atlus putting their logo on Sakura Wars, you know?
Oh, completely. Like, it's as disappointing as humanly possible that they're still two separate entities, because I am a mega aficionado of Sega Heroes, and I know that the Phantom Thieves will probably never be on there as much as I want them to be on there, but there's always that sliver of hope that, hey, maybe it'll happen, but it won't. Like,
I don't know if this would make you feel better.
I want SMT and Persona to be under the Sega umbrella.
I don't know if this would make you feel better. I will say this. Persona, or even Shin Megami Tensei, has no chance of ever being in Sega Heroes. You have a small chance of people from DX2 being in it, if that kind of makes you feel a little bit better.
I mean, that's really... Like, as much as it doesn't... we may get DX2 at some point in Sega Heroes, but it's just because I want when they do another Sonic racing game, and it'll eventually happen, that I want the Morgana van to be there. But I know it's not going to be there, but I want it.
That's I know there are people who like Sonic Team Racing. I don't think there will ever be a better example, though, for how to flub potential for a sequel more than Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed is an amazing game, has a ton of crazy lineage stuff to Sega history, and now, over 5 years later, with all the changes to that company and all the stuff and all the things that have happened, we're just going to go back to only Sonic characters. It's like, how do you go from Shenmue having its own, like, representation in that game of you can be Ryo on an outrun machine kart racing with Sonic the Hedgehog, and then just go, nah, just Sonic this time?
Well, that was PC DLC. That was the rough part. They cut back super hard, because the original one, Sonic and Sega All-Stars, that Ryo was in there from the start.
Well, actually, no. Ryo technically I think is only PC. He might have been patched into the phone version. But,
no, yeah, definitely the phone version.
But I know he definitely never got added onto console.
I still love that game so much just because it had Skies of Arcadia representation.
Very good point. Yeah,
I remember the director.
It was not afraid to reference
Skies of Arcadia
the weird stuff.
fucking crying. She was openly sobbing when she heard the new compositions and saw the racetrack and the render of Vice. It's like, oh, fucking man, they really need And I always say this, and I've said this to every Sega employee that I've met in real life, is that Sega Ages needs to move over to, like, Dreamcast or at least 3D arcade games, or just, like, Japanese Genesis games. Something.
It really sucks, though, because Sega Ages had been dead for so many years up until the Switch recently revived it, and it is tough, because it just feels like every time a good Sega Ages rhythm starts happening, either a console generation starts over or M2 loses a contract with Sega, and then by the time we get Sega Ages happening again, we're now just making another better version of Sonic 1, 2, or stuff like that, which is like, yes, those Sega Ages ports are really important, but it is really disappointing that, like, I think the latest Sega Ages thing we've ever really had, and I know this doesn't even really count, is the HD Dreamcast games they did back in the 360 PS3 era.
Yeah, those 4 games.
Well, I guess technically 5 if you count Jet Set Radio.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't counting Nights into Dreams, actually, because that's a Saturn game.
So you forget Nights into Dreams, but you don't forget Sega bass fishing, is what you're telling me.
The legendary Sega bass fishing. Which I'm still bothered that it's only the first game. Why are you not giving me Sega marine fishing? I want to catch a marlin again.
So, reeling us in a little bit, there was because I cannot believe we're actually almost to 2 hours already. Really, time really flies when you're talking about Sega on a Shin Megami Tensei podcast.
It's within the umbrella.
Exactly. I would be very curious. What you were saying, you are actually a fan of Sakura Wars' release and marketing kind of strategy. Of hey, it got announced. January, right? It was like technically officially announced in January, and actually no, probably early February, actually, because I think Sakura Wars got announced with the release date after that press event, didn't it?
Yeah, because it was. I guess I can say it now because it already happened. But one of the PR managers was saying, yeah, we're going to be doing a big thing next week, announcing like the Sakura Wars date and like the cover art and all that stuff. And just don't say anything. So I was like, all right. But yeah, it had just happened the week after my trip to LA.
So I disagree a little bit in terms of thinking I think it can be a good marketing strategy going, hey, out of nowhere, this game's finally coming out in 2 months in North America and also the rest of the world in English. But why is it that you think that the way Atlus, or I guess the way Sega is handling Sakura Wars, why do you have faith that
I think it honestly depends on the title. Like I wouldn't do something like that for like Yakuza 7, but like when they did something like that for Fist of the North Star, I felt like it worked for that game, and it would work, and it works for Sakura Wars. It doesn't work for every game, but I think just specifically those two, it works for that social media blitz campaign.
See,
and I kind of want them to do like a goofy live action trailer for Sakura Wars like they did for Fist of the North Star, where it's legit just two guys in the parking lot kicking watermelons. Like for some reason that worked for me just because of how silly it was.
So kind of looking into it though, how do you not think that that's gonna? I don't know. My worry is like in April. Sakura Wars is releasing in a month with Resident Evil, and this is just off the top of my head, I'm probably forgetting stuff. Resident Evil 3, Final Fantasy 7, and at least one other big game that I'm forgetting, but like, I don't know, I feel like also releasing less than 30 days after another big 100-hour RPG from the same company, it just feels kind of weird.
Well, I mean, I would agree with that, only because, but the only reason why I don't is because Resident Evil 3 is closer to Royal than it is to Sakura Wars, and same case with Final Fantasy 7. So I figured that them making it, I think it was April 28th, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So it being at the end of the month with May, and I honestly can't remember the big May release, but there is something.
Used to be Avengers, and then we all laughed, but then it's actually September now. The big May release would be Last of Us, I guess, technically.
Last of Us, but that's also at the end of the month. And also there are definitely two different audiences that you're marketing to.
Mm-hmm.
And also that it's an ARPG instead of a JRPG, so I figure that it's a far enough deviation where it's definitely a niche title.
Wow,
it's
you know what's
definitely
weird?
Catering to Sega freaks.
Releasing on the same day, and actually surprisingly in the same wheelhouse as they are both strategy games. One, Sakura Wars, is ironically more action-based than this one. Releasing on the same day as Sakura Wars is Gears Tactics.
Isn't it the mobile game?
No, that's Gears Pop. Gears Tactics is the one that's XCOM, so it is a like turn-based tactical RPG.
Huh.
So it's like, wow, those are like very opposition because one is PC, Xbox, and the other is PS4 only. But yeah, I also have a hard time just because we in the West have had one Sakura Wars game release to pretty niche reception with So Long My Love, I think the one that was published for Wii and PS2 on back in the day from NIS America. It's just kind of funny that like I wonder if it's hard to say if their marketing strategy is, hey, let's cut as little time from announcement to release as humanly possible to try and just make buzz, 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 buzz. But also the cynical side in you kind of is, I'm having a harder time ignoring the fact that, hey, Atlus has been very public, and Sega has been very public that this game bombed in Japan. This undersold their expectations.
Oh yeah, their
when
earnings report.
Because it came out in December, which was actually, I thought, a weird time in terms of its release. I had totally forgot it actually was coming out when it did. So it's hard to not worry that they're kind of just pushing it out quickly after announcement, because it's like, well, we're doing this because we wanted to bring back a long, like, historic franchise. Because if you remember, this was announced, 2018, 2017?
Yeah, I think it was right with the Olympic Games.
Yeah, like, it
Like,
was
right when they
it was
announced
a
Mario
big
Sonic.
deal that Sega was going back to one of their, like, very niche but very, like, hardcore, like Sakura Wars, like, at the time was a very, very popular series and has tons and tons and tons of games, which, by the way, I highly recommend anyone out there look up the Sakura Wars Pink Dreamcast. That is every time I look at that, I go, wow, that's real, because it just looks like someone puts a bunch of, like, dollar store stickers on a Dreamcast and tie-dyed it pink.
I mean, hey, that might have been the manufacturing idea, since like the Dreamcast lasted a little over a year. They could have been rushing that one out the door.
In America, you had at least 2.5 years in Japan.
Yeah, fair enough. But potentially, I just like seeing, and this is just from my personal standpoint, I really like seeing Sega just go back to their old stuff, because for a very, very long time, it was specifically just all faith in Sonic, no faith in anything else. So to see that kind of reversing makes me a lot happier. And like, even if it is just pushing it out the door, the person in charge of it, just based on talking to the guy at the event, he could not be a bigger Sakura Wars fan. So I have a feeling that whatever he has planned in terms of marketing, that I trust him on this.
I assume you're talking about Zach, right?
Zach, yes.
So in case anyone doesn't know, only reason I'm calling out Zach is everybody go follow Zach on his Twitter. If you just search Sakura and Zach on Twitter, there's no way anyone else is going to come up. He's been doing a series replay through them all, and it's been really cool just kind of like watching, like, he's been uploading like videos and like GIFs and stuff of everything. It's been really cool, especially if people don't know like how long the series has been around, since like the late 90s, so it is kind of cool to compare them all to now.
Yeah, and honestly, it's kind of like, for example, it's kind of like if we got the keys to marketing Persona 6 after being like mega Persona fans. So that's why I kind of trust him on it, because if anybody could explain the appeal to someone who's never played the series, it'd be Zach.
I do find it interesting though, because you're not wrong. I would say Sega 10 years ago was definitely, okay, you're lucky if we get a Yakuza. It's mainly Sonic and a lot of downloadable stuff.
Oh, but Yakuza 1's dub is just the most, like, outside of Mark Hamill, it's the most unenthusiastic fucking line reads I've ever heard.
But, like, I mean, and even this one, though, like, because if you kind of flip the head on things, since Sega became a lot more ambiguous in the West, especially with Atlus, I feel like Atlus West kind of lost a lot of what made them really special to me back in the heyday of like PlayStation 3, PSP, and Vita, and even to an extent on like PlayStation 1 and 2, but obviously not as many people kind of played those games. I really miss the days of Atlus picking these games and being that niche publisher. Like, I don't really think of Atlus as a niche publisher anymore. I just think of Atlus as that company who releases their own games. Like, I miss the days of Atlus releasing 3D Dot Game Heroes and even dumb shit like RIPD the game, and even like going back to like, we can never forget the only reason Demon's Souls is big in the West is because Atlus published Demon's Souls, and then they're just not that company anymore. Like we would never get Atlus as it is now releasing that Conception PS4 remake,
or King of Fighters 14.
Well, no, they did 14.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No. I'm
saying Atlus now publishing
no, but,
like King of Fighters 15.
But I'm like saying by like comparison of that, it's like only a few years ago is like we had Atlus putting out stuff like Conception 2, and we weren't batting an eye at that, even though that's a very out there kind of game. And even like fighting games with KOF, like KOF 14 that you're bringing up, whereas it's just now that kind of stopped, and I don't hear a lot of people sort of talk about it, but that's one of those things I really missed of Atlus bringing over those like more niche games and developers. And because like honestly, I would never heard of a lot of these, whereas like I wasn't super big into until I was collecting really for Vita. I didn't really play a lot of NIS games. I was pretty much like, if it was Atlus stuff, I picked it up because I trusted what they brought over 9 out of 10 times. Like, I don't know about you. Like, were you very much into a lot of their published stuff, not necessarily their developed things at the time, or did you mainly kind of stick to the games that they just internally developed and put out?
Honestly, more internally developed, but again, I really didn't have that focus of like, if this game looks interesting, I didn't even realize who it was by until like long after. Like it's honestly, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, only more recently that I pay more attention to developer names and marketing campaigns, where I look at it more with an adult eye, is the best way to put it.
You know, you mentioned an adult eye. I haven't even asked this. How old are you, by the way?
30.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 30 years old.
I am just the absolute worst at guessing ages. I'm 26 myself, so I was like...
Oh, fair enough.
So it's like, I'm with an adult eye. How old are you? I'm 23. All right. Context.
I mean, that's legally an adult eye. But yeah, back then I didn't even think about it. But now I do definitely pay a lot more attention. But I think a lot of the shift in general was because of the success of Persona 5, I'd say. Because I don't think in general the series ever sold quite as well as Persona 5 did, which as somebody who had been around for the previous iteration, definitely took me by surprise. I always thought it was just going to be like the niche thing. Like I was even surprised that Persona 4 Arena made it to Evo.
Oh, well, there was no way that was not going to make it at Evo, because I was actually there the year that Persona 4 Arena dropped in 2012. A month before its release, I was at Evo, like, playing the last public build of that game. That was, like, one of the coolest moments of my fucking life, in terms of, like, I had just started doing, like, the podcast and stuff, and I was writing for this website, and I was, like, talking to the Atlus had flown a bunch of their playtesters out to just show off
so cool.
Arena, and it was just so fun, because, like, yeah, everyone's there to, like, watch Evo and stuff for it. I basically just used that whole trip as an excuse of, like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to play as many matches of Arena as humanly possible, and I'm just going to, like, sink my life and live this game.
Yeah, I only figured out about Arena because I had just beaten Golden in the local game store that was, like, a couple blocks away from me. I missed that place. But I was talking about it with them, and they said, oh, yeah, they made a sequel. It's a fighting game written by the same writers. I was like, all right, I'm in. And then after that, I was introduced to C's through there, so then I had to play Persona 3 Portable. And then I just kept going from there.
So if you had to, let's say, time stops, your collection is what it is right now, what is that first game on your backlog you pick up and really commit yourself to beating, and why?
Oh, that I haven't beaten?
Mm-hmm.
Non-Army games.
That's an interesting pick. Man, I gotta say, this is not ever a specific thing. This podcast has now a trend of at least 10 plus weeks, unprovoked by me, visual novels come up. It usually leads to either the Zero Escape games or AI the Somnian Files, but literally the visual novels come up every week on this RPG podcast.
Literally
and I love
both
it.
games. My friend Dr. Cullen, he has beaten me over the head with AI Somnian Files. It is in my backlog right now. I am staring at it. And that's another game that I really, really need to play. But there are always these sister series of, like, if you like Persona, then you're going to like the non-Array games. If you like Persona, then you're going to like Somnium Files. And, like, that's how I even got into Danganronpa. Was legit just somebody, he's a good friend of mine now, but the way that we met was him messaging my Facebook page saying, hey, have you ever played Danganronpa? I said, no, but I've heard about it. He said, all right, I'm buying you Danganronpa 1-2 Reload right now. What's your address? And he sent it to me, and then I played it for Twitter because the way that I initially did it was that I would screenshot like parts of the trial and parts of like the daily life stuff and just tweet it out. And I really got into the series. I guess it's honestly just anything with a visual novel hook to it is definitely something you're going to like if you've ever liked Persona.
It's very interesting. Along with you bringing that up, what do you normally like to play visual novels on if you have a choice? Like for me, I pretty much play them all on like Vita, but where would you play the Nonary games at?
Well, I got it for Christmas on PS4, so I guess on my big screen TV.
I'm weird. I just like I don't know if it's because I started with all my visual novels on portable systems, but like the idea of sitting in front of my TV to like read a visual novel is just like the weirdest thing for me. It's like reverse Kindle syndrome. It's like, oh, do you want to carry this book around or do you want to carry this tablet? It's like, no. Hey, do you want to like read it on this like portable small device or do you want to watch it on your 60-inch TV? Yeah.
I mean, hell, there's no doubt that I'm not going to be able to read it.
That is true. I've never really. I'm too much of a fucking zoomer over here. I need to think about all the old visual novel fans getting their bifocals out to see those 4K assets. By the way, apologies for everyone who was having to hear me chew. At the start of this podcast, I had one Taco Bell burrito just staring at me, getting very cold, and my stomach was like, you gotta eat this garbage. You're a garbage man. You need to just commit to eating this. Because it's not, let's be real, it's not going to get any better 30 minutes from now. There is a finite amount of edible period that this food has.
That's understandable, especially with a burrito.
Speaking of garbage, we asked for some community questions for you.
Oh boy!
Boy, let me tell you, your fans have got the hard-hitting questions. We've got a couple set up from Twitter right now.
I imagine our first one serious and a couple and like 70 mean questions.
That's okay. Our first one goes: who is your least favorite character in the Persona series?
Mr. Moroka.
Any explanation why?
Mostly because he's an annoying hard ass for no other reason than to just be kind of like an ornery prick, and there's never any like added depth to the character of like why is he an asshole? He just is, and then he dies.
Second question: is Mishima involved in the Phan Site Twitter account, and if not, why?
No, actually, the only reason why I picked Phan Site was because when I was playing Persona 5 and I saw the Phan Site, I went, somebody's going to take that on Facebook, and I'm going to be the guy to take that. So I just did.
I can respect that. My online name for the longest time, it still is actually, is Torchwood4SP. And if someone is ever that big of a Doctor Who nerd enough to know, my name is a reference to a Doctor Who spin-off series. And in canon universe, there are 5 Torchwoods. Torchwood 1, 2, 3, and 5 all are either spoken for or taken. And in the lore, the 4th one was never like officially given like a history. And 8th grade me heard that and went, I'm gonna start it, man. I'm gonna own this fucking name. And it's gonna be like, because technically my dumb online handle, when I was like in middle school, I started it, was like Torchwood 4 for like the 4th branch of Torchwood. And the SP, even though my name is Spencer Presley, the SP was not for my name. The SP was for the Shadow Proclamation, which is its own piece of Doctor Who lore that I'm not even going to get into. But what was so great about that is that it worked also for my name, and I never enjoyed that. It was always like, oh, the SP is for your name. I'm like, no. Well, what's it for? I'm not going to get into it. I don't have time to talk about the Shadow Proclamation. We don't got time for this.
You need to get some like heavy Doctor Who fans in here, then you can.
Let me tell you right now, that is a small Venn diagram. Everybody, please tweet at us. Any Whovians and SMT/Persona fans. I've met maybe 2 of you.
Yeah, they got to be out there. But I guess to finish the question would be that I like Mishima as a character. I think that he gets shit on too much, and I feel like Ren setting him up on a blind date with Ichiko, and it ended up being an interview, was just, that's the amount of revenge that he needs. So you could stop being a dick to him now.
Next question. This one might actually stump you the hardest.
Ooh.
This question needs to be answered, he says. Uwu or uwu? This is the anime equivalent of, is the Kool-Aid guy the jar or the juice?
No, the answer to that one is uwu, because anytime that I Twitch with one of my co-admins on Discord, he will annoyingly ask everyone, "Can I get an uwu in the chat?" And then my entire Twitch chat is just flooded with uwu, so I may as well go with the tide.
I just hope that somebody like does that in like the voice channel. Like, just imagine like, hey guys, can we, like, it's like a AGDQ thing. It's like when like an AGDQ and they're like, can we get a AGDQ hype? They'll be like, huh? They're like, can we get an uwu in the chat? Uwu. Oh man. Next question. How much work is it to be the main account people count on for Persona content on Twitter? It's like they are, it is like they are, oh boy, I'm Englishing really right now. It's like they're aggregating the fandom and the news into one Twitter account.
Well, I'm always glad to hear that, because I'm
sorry. I thought that was directed towards me.
Well,
The number one Twitter account for Persona things. It's very presumptuous for you to assume that was directed towards you.
Well, I mean, I am a presumptuous person.
All right, I'll let you go. My ego is very deflated right now. I'll have you all know.
That's still weird to me. Like even when I got the invite from Atlus to preview Royal in LA, and they were gonna pay for everything, and I always think, what, you mean me? Why the hell are you talking to me for? And that's one thing that I do see sometimes, is when people think that I have an ego, and every time somebody says something nice about me, it's either I want to skip over it or I don't think they're talking about me.
Okay.
But I do appreciate that, and I guess the pressure never ever actually hits me. I never feel like that I'm the number one. I'm the one everyone counts on. It's just I'm doing my thing, and that's that.
All right, our last question we have from Twitter, unless you had some other ones lined up on your end, we have a rapid fire quick question. So you're gonna have to just go and no thinking.
All right.
Favorite non-party social link?
Oh fuck, non-party social link. That would.
You got time right now. You got 3 seconds. 3.
All right, shit.
2.
Kawakami.
Oh, okay. All right. At least you didn't say Kamoshida. That would have been bad. Favorite party social link and why?
Favorite party social link would be Futaba, because Futaba is the home of the people that are worse than Kamoshida.
Favorite story theme?
Favorite story theme would be Persona 4.
Favorite Persona?
Favorite Persona, Asterius.
Wait, what? Oh my god, sorry, no. In my head I read that as game, not like a specific Persona. That makes more sense.
Oh, yeah, because if it's a specific Persona, yeah, Asterius, Shadow Labrys' Persona, because that design is flawless.
By the way, I'm sorry you did not use her real name, her canon name of Shabris.
Shabris.
Favorite Persona game?
Favorite Persona game, Golden.
What is your reaction to the following 6 words? Hold on. What was your reaction to the 6 words that opened the 4th palace in Persona 5?
Fuck, what were the 6 words that opened the 4th palace?
I would say them, but then that would be a spoiler for anyone who's not played, so then I can't say them. So we'll say your reaction was, I'm gonna forget this in 3 years.
Apparently so. Fuck. I'm trying to remember 4th palace. Was that okay? Because I keep thinking 3rd palace. I keep thinking that's Kaneshiro, but that would be that's Futaba's. Oh yeah, okay. That fucked me up. I went, oh shit. We're going to a little Persona 4 right now, where we're gonna go into somebody's brain and fix him.
And I gotta say, as we're getting away from Twitter, I gotta start winding down because we're somehow almost to the 2:20 mark. First off, appreciate you for coming on.
Of course.
Where can people find you and all that fun jazz online, or where do you want to be found?
I try and keep it easy where everything is the Fan Site. So if Facebook, the Fan Site, Twitter, the Fan Site, Twitch, the Fan Site. My
With
Discord
the PH,
server.
because
Yeah, PH.
the cool kind of fan.
PHANSITE. And for the Discord server, you can find the link in my Twitter bio. And if you ever want to message me directly, hit me up on Twitter or Facebook. Or does YouTube still have chat? I don't think it does.
It has a live chat and like comments, but they don't no longer do DMs.
Oh, no more DMs. Okay, so then Facebook and Twitter.
Besides that, a quick little bit of housekeeping slash shout outs, and these are really weird. They all have a theme. It is physical print related. If anyone out there lives near a Walmart, I found out that the free electronics section magazine has a full center spread of Tokyo Mirage Sessions. It's worth it for two things. One, because it's free and it's Tokyo Mirage Sessions Encore related. And two, if you zoom in to Mamori's face, the time that they screenshotted it, it looks like she's literally about to pounce on Barry, and it's really fantastic. I'm going to send you that snapshot of her face because I zoomed in on it, and it looks just absolutely nightmarish. Next up, speaking of things that are not free but are magazine related, if you are a fan of the PlayStation Vita and are not aware, there used to be an old website called the Vita Lounge, and they used to do a physical print magazine every couple of months called the Vita Mag. I contributed to the final issue after many delays. It is finally printed and coming out. I think there's like less than 30 copies left. But the reason I bring this up is the final issue does have a bunch of coverage I wrote, but what's interesting is that I did a review for Persona 3 and 5 Dancing, because let's be real, you only need one review for both of those games. And more interestingly, I reviewed Catherine Full Body, so if you would like the only English review of Catherine Full Body on PlayStation Vita in a physical print magazine form, and that's a very specific niche, but I'm sure somebody out there is like me and wants that. You can check the links of the episode show notes below for how to follow that. I think it should be somewhere, depending on where you live, they are shipping out of Europe, so should be somewhere around like $10-15 after shipping, even though it is a magazine. It is pretty beefy, though, so for anyone out there interested. And final, actually, while I'm pulling this up, because I'm going to have to think of a weird way to describe this, the image of Mamori is being sent to you right now. Our final thing that I'm shilling today and whatnot. Here's Kickstarter. I know Kickstarters have a bit of a bad connotation to most people. Nope, there it is.
Oh, we were talking about Mighty Number 9.
Yes, exactly. So my friend Sandeep, as a PlayStation Vita book, he covers it. This is more of a book than a magazine of going through the PlayStation Vita's life. If you are interested in the Vita, I am going to have the campaign show notes in the description. There's 24 days left. It's already met its goal. The books are really, really cheap. They're really, really good quality. If you would like, interestingly, to Persona, the second book does have a PSP retrospective for all of the Persona PSP games I wrote. There's a whole bunch of other things like that, but if you like portable things like the PlayStation Vita, check it out. Just wanted to help promote a friend's Kickstarter, but it has already met its goal, so you don't have to worry about it not happening. And in very un-Kickstarter fashion, my friend has such a good track record with his last two books being Kickstarted that not only had he delivered on all of them, he actually did them before their estimated delivery date, which I have never heard of other Kickstarters doing. It's usually delay.
I think maybe Skullgirls had that, where they over-delivered, where it was like one DLC character in a stage, and they gave like 5 and 7 stages.
Well, that was a stretch goal, and I actually remember the Skullgirls DLC took forever to come out, but they were very public about why.
Yeah, they were incredibly transparent, which is exactly why I backed them.
Thanks, Indiegogo. If it was not for Skullgirls, I would not know Indiegogo was a thing.
Yeah.
So, shilling of books and stuff aside, if you would like, you can follow me on Twitter personally. I'm at Torchwood4SP. You can follow the podcast at SMT Network on Twitter. You can join our Facebook group, which just recently hit over 6,000 members, by going to facebook.com/groups/SMT Network. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, give us reviews. Everything helps boost our numbers and lifts my ego up. That being said, you can also find my channel on YouTube where I post the podcast and other little things that I want to talk about. Last week I put up a review for the first volume of the Persona 5 manga, which apparently I'm the only one who bought a copy of, but it is very, very good, and I do recommend you guys checking that out. If you would like to see something that has a lot more views, I recently unboxed $500 worth of PlayStation Vita blind boxes from Limited Run Games, and my soul died because I got nothing that I wanted. And somehow that already has like over 2,000 views in one day, so clearly people want to see that a lot more than Persona 5 manga reviews. So please enjoy that, and you can watch me slowly die on the inside. That being said, heartbreaking stuff aside, we kept this episode under 2.5 hours by some miracle. I asked multiple people how long they thought the show would be. The consensus was 3 hours. Everyone thought that there's no way the show was going to be under 3 hours, but we did it. Congratulations.
I mean, I could keep going if you want to.
I'm sure you could. I'm not as spry of a young man as you. I gotta upload this bad boy. I gotta get the leaves rook. Is the past tense of rake rook?
Maybe rooked.
Rooked the leaves. I need to rook the leaves with my chess set, and just need to genuinely pretend to be productive and do other things, because I'm currently juggling reviewing one game, trying to get that review up by the end of the week, and also playing 3 different Persona games at once because I hate myself. That being said, I don't hate you guys for listening. Skull, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
What would you like for our final closing statement? Do you have any final words before we tell everyone goodbye?
Play Persona. It's a good game.
That's much better. I would have said get you a girl or boy who looks at you the way Mama Marie looks at Barry in that picture I just sent you. She is looking at Barry like he is just the tallest milkshake she has ever seen. And then you remember she's 11 years old and you go, "Whoa, that dog suit's a little creepy now." Oh my god. Yeah,
some of those lyrics are suggestive, but I think that's just like to shit on it because that's kind of how idol culture can be.
It is. I unironically love Barry and Mama Marie the most in that whole cast. They are like my favorite part of the whole.
I can't blame you.
Subcast.
Like when I started doing Tokyo Mirage Sessions Day, a lot of people shit on Barry, but then like while replaying it for Encore, Barry's the best part of the game just because of how unabashedly caricaturish he is.
Well, before I spend another half an hour proving us wrong into making this a 3-hour Tokyo Mirage Sessions podcast, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. See you guys.
Take care.